97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Happy Tuesday morning, Delaware Valley and beyond. Hope you had a great Monday night. Lots of sports action on the tube. Seems like you can find sports, a lot of it, anywhere you want right about now. If you're a women's basketball fan, if you're a pro, hockey pro. Ray, man, this thing, I got to tell you, sorry, people, to distract you. The arm of my microphone, it looks like it's not good. But we'll have to live with it for now. We'll have to live with it. I apologize. Great to have you with us here today. Not as beautiful as it was yesterday. A little cloudy outside, but the weather's warming up. This Phillies game, the more I'm thinking about it, I think your season opener is going to be on Friday, not on Thursday this week. It just looks like that rain's going to be coming in at a bad time for it. And wouldn't you rather just have a game? You might be disappointed it's moved back a day, but wouldn't you rather just have a day where you don't have to worry about anything, that the game's going to be played because the weather's going to be fine, even if it's pushed back a day? I'd rather have that than have to worry about any rain or anything like that. Raymond, how are you this morning?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Bob?
Well, you're not doing wonderful. You need to be honest with our listening audience because you're a little under the weather.
A little bit, but I just wanted them to get the illusion of wonderful so they didn't have to worry about me.
Oh, they know you're wonderful. It's just about how. So Ray's voice is coming in and out a little bit today, but the more he talks, the better.
Yeah, so I'm just going to talk the entire 4 hours.
I was going to say, I'm going to have to go to you an awful lot today.
Okay, sounds good.
That's what we're thinking.
I sound a lot better than I did about 45 minutes ago.
Yeah, when you came in, there was a little touch and go.
It reminded me of the Andros show where we both did it without voices.
I remember that day. I remember driving home, and I remember texting Andrew, get somebody else to sit in your seat, please, because it sounded like a nails going down a chalkboard.
Yeah, it was not great for either one of us that day. I thought for sure that was when the plug would get pulled from us doing a show together.
Not yet. No, it didn't.
Yeah,
it didn't get pulled. It just got put into another outlet.
No, but I thought after that day, I was like, well, that's the last you'll ever hear from me.
And it wasn't.
It wasn't.
And hopefully we never do.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so anyway, hope everybody's having a great day today. We're going to get into it. Got to look at what happened yesterday and what we got coming up today.
Now, the front page. The stories everyone's talking about. 97.5, The Fanatic.
Well, not a great night for your Philadelphia 76ers as they go into Sacramento, and not that they got plastered, but they were just, I guess I'll put it, they were never really in the game. It didn't seem like. It looked like those legs that have been on a West Coast trip for a week, for 4 games, that seemed to be really evident last night as they lose 108-96 in Sacramento. They go 1-3 on the road trip. Horrible shooting night for the 76ers. 34 of 82, 41% from the floor. It's weird. They shot horrible against the Lakers, but as I said, had wide open shots. The offense looked fine. Then against the Clippers, Nick Nurse said, just keep running the same offense. They did. They made shots. They got a really good win against the Clippers. And then last night it's a game that probably we all have seen, and I know I have seen so many times. It's a game where Nick Nurse, you can tell from the beginning of the game, even though he had Kyle Lowry back on good rest, he had Nick Batum back on good rest, he was just like trying to pull a good game out of these guys. You could see him coaching his ass off from the beginning of the game, and I just equated it to, man, they don't have anything. Sometimes you put a team out on the court, if we're watching it, and you just look at court, the ice, field, whatever it is, and you look and you say, man, they don't have it tonight. That was what I got out of the Sixers last night. I watched it until the middle of the fourth quarter, and then I just, that was it. Tyrese Maxey, 29 points. Tobias Harris, 12. No other starter in double figures. Just not a good night at all. It had all the evidence of the last game of a road trip. So the Sixers are the number 8 seed right now, a half a game behind Miami, who's at 7. 1.5 games behind the Pacers, who now stand at the 6th seed. It's going to be 6, 7, or 8. I don't think the Sixers are going to fall to 9 because that's like a 3.5 or 4 game difference right there. Sixers with 10 games yet to play. They return home tomorrow night. Now, that's tough. They probably landed around, I was thinking 6 or 7 o'clock this morning. So you have all day today is just a nothing day. Try to recover. And then, boom, you're back at it at home tomorrow night against a good Clippers team. I know you just beat them, but they're a good Clippers team. So that's tough for them. As far as your Eagles, you heard it on the morning show with Kincade and Salciunas. Nick Sirianni, he spoke this morning in Orlando, bright and early too, Ray. He was up at like 7:45 at the breakfast table with all the reporters. We'll check in on what he had to say. Not a lot there. And I heard John and Andrew going off about, my God, the guy can't talk in front of a microphone. This isn't, I said this to John before when we were in the morning show. To me, this isn't coach time. This is Howie time. Off season is Howie time. The coach, yeah, okay, I'm not going to tell you what offense we're running. Yeah, I love my quarterback. We have a great relationship. I don't know what to tell you. I just don't glean, and it's me. I'm not saying they're wrong for having the reaction they did, and I don't know how you guys feel out there listening. I just don't really glean anything from a Nick Sirianni at this point of the, I can't even say season, at this point of the year. They're well away from practices. They still don't even know what their full roster is. He was asked about the center position because he kind of alluded to or hinted at, however you want to phrase it, that it's not a guarantee that Cam Jurgens is your starting center. So just different things there. Maybe we'll gloss over it a little bit. I was more interested in what Howie had to say yesterday down in Orlando, so we'll get into a little bit of that. And we'll see if there's anything really to react to as far as Nick Sirianni goes. I'll put some things out there. Maybe you are fully in, much like John and Andrew, in that what he says bothers you or whatever the case. But I just don't get much into it. So we'll see what you have to say about that. Also, I'm going to put this question out there to you later on. Does it really matter what Nick Sirianni says now as it relates to his coaching? Because I understand that he's pretty much been labeled like a lame duck coach here, where what does he do? He hits a meeting here and there. He's kind of the overseer of things. But what he says now, does it really matter as far as his coaching goes? Because two of the greatest coaches of my lifetime, and maybe of all time, probably of all time, Bill Belichick never said jack diddly squat behind a microphone. And Andy Reid, he frustrated us for years behind microphones here in Philadelphia with the injuries and the lack of really diving into answers. So I'll throw that out to you later on. The Flyers, they're at the Rangers tonight, 7 o'clock, right here on the Fanatic. Rangers are one of the best teams in the NHL. I said to Pat Egan early in the year, I pegged them to go to the Stanley Cup Finals from the Eastern Conference. So the Flyers will be there tonight. It gets a little easier after tonight. It's been a real rough patch that they've had. They're playing really good teams. But it gets easier as they're at Montreal, Chicago home, big game against the Islanders at home. And then they go at Buffalo, at Columbus, at Montreal, all teams that are pretty far under them in the standings. So Flyers, look, they also have 10 games to go. They have to keep their head more than above water in order to hold on to that third spot in the Metropolitan, to get that playoff spot. I'm interested to see how the coach is going to react this week too. It'll be fun. Mike Sealski had a little tidbit here that I wanted to read to you guys. If you haven't had a chance to see it yet, his column today was more about gambling getting out of control with professional athletes. But here's how he ended his thing. See if you like this. John Tortorella benched his captain and initially sent one of his assistant coaches to explain why. Kim Mulkey, LSU's women's basketball coach, threatened to sue a Washington Post reporter over a story that hasn't even been published yet. And after the Sixers beat the Clippers on Sunday, James Harden ducked out of Crypto.com arena before anyone could ask him a question. Mike then says, who knew us irrelevant media members could have such a tough-talking coaches and athletes quaking in their boots? Pretty good observation there by Mike. I thought it was funny. I am not sitting here saying, yeah, media. I'm just saying it is kind of funny that those three things have happened over the last couple of days. So Flyers back at it tonight, as we said, at the New York Rangers, 7 o'clock right here on the Fanatic. Now your Phillies. The Phillies. Dave Dombrowski spoke. There's good stories out there from him talking about Spencer Turnbull's going to take over that number 5 spot as Taijuan Walker is out with injury. But he also brought up he's not ready yet, but it's getting close, and that's Mick Abel. and that makes me feel good. You have a journeyman in Turnbull that you have to plug in there because Taiwan Walker has the shoulder problem. But, man, it just excites me, especially when it's the Phillies. If something happens and a homegrown talent you can plug in there and be happy with, I'd love to see McAble come along during this season. And at some point, if, God forbid, there's injuries on the starting five of your rotation, I hope McAble can just step in and be that guy. The person who's not going to be that guy, Dave Dombrowski said, Jordan Montgomery, came flat out. Nah, don't see it happening. We're not going to sign him at this time. I'm okay with it, especially after Blake Snell went 2 years for $61 or $2 million. Nah, I don't want to see that money going out. Phillies are already, I think it was $10 million over the luxury tax, something like that. I read it this morning. So, no, I'd rather see a McAble come up in the middle of the year and have a homegrown guy be there instead of spending more money that way, even though it's not my money. See if this concerns you out there as far as your Philadelphia Phillies go as they played their last spring training game yesterday. How about Nick Castellanos hit 119? How about Kyle Schwarber hit 132? How about Bryce Harper hit 179? How about JT Realmuto hit 213? Not real good there. So you don't have real hot bats coming up north when they open up against Atlanta, which I think will be scheduled for Thursday. I think will be Friday because of the rain. And then our last thing on the Phillies, Ray, you're going to like this. I'm going to love this. This show adopted him yesterday. That's right. Rob Thompson came out and raved about Junior Marte over his 10 scoreless innings in spring training. So we got that going for us. Also, just some side notes on maybe some national stuff. The Knicks last night, in a group text with guys that I used to work with at the Daily News, somebody from Villanova that works there texted us that 124 of the New York Knicks points of the 124 points scored by the New York Knicks last night, 79 were from Villanova alum or Villanova products. In 40, Dante DiVincenzo, 28 from Brunson, 11 from Josh Hart. So good night for them. Hip drop tackle, no more. I didn't even know what a hip drop tackle was before, and I'm still having trouble. Like you grab the guy's hip and you just fall to the ground. I don't know how you're supposed to tackle anymore. I think you have to hold the guy and look at the ref and say, is this okay? Is this all right? Before you actually take him to the ground. Kickoff rules vastly changed. If you want to see what it looks like, go to Twitter and get on Adam Schefter. He's got video on there of what the NFL kickoff is going to look like now. Vastly different. Kicker's back kicking where he normally is, but now the guys making the tackle, the kickoff team, are lined up, 5 yards away from the receiving team with one guy back in the end zone, and nobody's allowed to move until that guy touches the ball or it hits the ground or somebody else in the stands or whatever it is. They run out of beer. That's when you can start running. I don't know. Craziness there. Shohei Ohtani, he says he's not guilty. He was duped by his interpreter. Shohei Ohtani seemed like, and then somebody was describing it, seemed like the perfect athlete that you wanted to follow and for kids to emulate and acted perfectly and all that stuff. This seems to be a little weird. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. So today on the show, we do have 2 knockout tickets to give away. That's right. For the Sixers Clippers, we're going to do that later on in the show. That is tomorrow night at 11 o'clock today. Just back from Omaha, Nebraska, and just ready to start calling your Philadelphia Phillies games. Tom McCarthy will join us at 11 o'clock. At 1 o'clock, the coach, the great one, the general manager, my man, Jimmy Lynam's going to join us to talk Sixers. And then tomorrow, we are going to be at Rally House in Fairless Hills. Me, Ray, and Bill Colarulo will be out there to talk anything and everything. Great place to be. We've been there many, many times. So hope you can stop by, say hello. That's what we got going on right now. So if you're interested in any of it, we're going to hit on it all. 610-632-0975. Don't forget, call in and talk, which we absolutely love. But also, you can hit the text line there, 610-632-0975. Include your name, and if you want to include where you're from also. But let us know who you are so that we can kind of build a relationship here on the text line. So, busy day yesterday, Ray, even though it's a Tuesday. Nice busy sports day. You and I both talked about it. We both watched some women's college basketball last night.
We did.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
I watched Notre Dame, about a half of Notre Dame in the late afternoon, and then that went right into watching the Iowa women's game last night. You also watched the UCLA women's game last night. They're going to play each other?
No. I believe UCLA is on to play LSU.
Right, that's what it was. Because I was rooting for US. I was rooting for UCLA because I just don't want LSU to go anywhere. Kim Mulkey's on my nerves that much.
Yeah,
I shouldn't allow it.
no, I think you're in the right on this one.
Yeah,
He's
you
on
think
my
so?
nerves as well.
I
He's been on my nerves for quite some time.
Yeah, it's you hate to, or I don't like. I don't want to form an opinion off of like you look at somebody, it's a punch to face, or that's this. And I'm not saying Kim Mulkey's a punch to face. I don't like her actions on the sideline, and then she gets behind a microphone, and when you keep preaching how you're there for the girls, and I'm here for the, and don't you, am I? All you're saying is me, I, and I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. The stuff that she's threatening the Washington Post with about a story that hasn't even come out yet, saying a reporter has been stalking her or whatever for a couple of years to get a smash piece on her. I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out, but I find her tough to root for. I like me some Lisa Bluter, the head coach of Iowa. Ray, you know women's basketball probably more than any of us because you call play-by-play for the Temple women's team. So you've seen some really good players throughout the country, some really good play throughout the country.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I was watching, you mentioned Notre Dame. For me, that was the Ole Miss game. We had played Ole Miss this season.
That's right.
Coach Yo, I was excited to see how they did. But tough one for him.
Yeah, tough one.
That Notre Dame team's good.
Yeah, the kid Hidalgo is really good. Hannah Hidalgo for Notre Dame is really good. She went to Paul VI. So, we're not here to talk women's basketball all day, believe it or not. But Ray and I, that's what we did last night. That was the sporting events that you had pretty much rolling last night. Tonight
Until the Sixers.
Until the Sixers, yeah. It was funny. You just had to have something carry you through until 10 o'clock. And I sat downstairs, watched all my sports by myself. 10 o'clock went up, watched 3.5 quarters of the Sixers before I called it a night. And just, I brought it up yesterday about this team kind of turning a corner when they played against the Clippers on Sunday. And I didn't give myself an out yesterday, but I did say that, look, I'm not saying they're going to go on and win 10, 12 games in a row, or the remaining games of the season, I should say, or go on some kind of run. It just seemed that they found an effort on Sunday. It appeared to me that they found something on Sunday, and the effort was there, and it was just something different. And I did. I said yesterday, I said, look, it could go away, and we could say, what the hell happened what that they did on Sunday, that it's just not there anymore. I don't know. I don't know exactly where this team is. I think that just reeked of a game that was the last one of a West Coast trip, which we've all seen so many times. Sometimes you'll get a phenomenal effort. Sometimes the team will be like, hey, it's our last one. Let's go. Let's go get it. We can hop on a plane and go to sleep after this game. All is good. Go home and sleep in our own beds and all that. But most of the times it's what last night was. And like I said earlier, Nick Nurse just, seemed to be trying his hardest to extrapolate some kind of, I don't want to say effort, but just something. He just seemed to be fighting the uphill battle all night long last night. Tyrese Maxey looked great. His energy was phenomenal, as it always is. His shot was there. He was taking the ball to the basket. But you need those other guys, as we talked about so many times. As good as Tyrese Maxey is, he can't carry an offense, not from his position, not when other teams can so easily stop either him, not easily stop him, but if you design to double team him or if you design to take the ball out of his hands, other guys have to be there. And once again last night, you just didn't have it. Tobias Harris was the only other double-digit scorer from the starters. Two guys, I think it was Council and somebody else, Wilson, off the bench. That got you double figures. So Nick Nurse went to the bench really early. You could see it was just kind of, I'm trying, but you guys just don't have it. So that's where they ended up last night. Back at it tomorrow night. We will be giving away knockout tickets later on in the show. We have a pair to give to you. Game is at 7:30 tomorrow night against the Los Angeles Clippers. Not only is that a great game, but if you get these tickets that we're going to give away later, you will be able to go on the court after the game and play knockout against all of us. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Ray, I told you that every day I wake up with songs in my mind. Yesterday it was The Who, Who Are You? Today it was The Pretenders. I forgot the name of the song. But whatever. It was. I said it to my wife as soon as I woke up. I was like, who sings this again? She's like, The Pretenders. Had that song in my mind, wiped it away once I got into the shower and made sure I sung other songs in my head. But we're going to play a game with that later on in the week about what songs were in my head during the week. So jot them down. The Who yesterday, Who Are You? The Pretenders, I'll get you the name of the song today, whatever it was. Just, we'll have some fun with this. Maybe we'll give away some prizes later on in the week. Okay, when we get back, Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, yes, they got behind microphones. Yes, they told us a lot, something, nothing. We'll talk about it. We'll listen to it. We'll read it to you. Your reaction to it, 610-632-0975. This is Middays with Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
We heard from the birds. I'm Ray Dunn. This update
Good seeing you. Andrew Salciunas always stops in the morning. We have a nice little conversation. So that went on. Hope everything's going well for you on this Tuesday as rain is impending. I think it's coming in maybe tomorrow and then lasting on Thursday. So try to plan ahead. It looks like your Philadelphia Phillies will not be opening on Thursday is my guess. I think that game will be pushed back to Friday. Hopefully they do it early. Hopefully they do it tomorrow and let everybody know so people can make the proper plans. Hey, 10 o'clock hour, it's brought to you by Window Nation. Take advantage of Window Nation's 50% off sale on all style windows. Plus, make no down payment with no payments and no interest for 12 full months. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. Let's hit the phone lines now. Dave from Ben Salem's been holding on for a while. Dave, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's going on?
Bob. How are you and Ray doing today?
Dave, how's things? You all good?
I'm doing well. I'm doing great, man.
Attaboy.
Congratulations on your second week, and you guys are still hanging in there and getting along. That's all that counts.
Over-under's 3 weeks, so we're right there. We'll see.
There you go. So, couple quick discussions. You mentioned about the Phillies. I'm like a diehard. Obviously, I work down there at the park, and I DVR all the spring training games. And I know you don't put a lot of stock in the spring training, but I'm concerned about some of these averages that some of the star players hit in spring training.
Dave, why not be? I mean, look, we're not going to carry it over the top or anything like that. But you love to hear, such and such is bringing a hot bat up north. Or, this guy's been really hot, and he's coming up north to see what happens. Yeah, you don't like to see all these low averages. Now, with Harper and with Schwarber, they did deal with some injuries. Harper with the back, Schwarber with the bellyache.
Correct, and that's why I'm not as concerned about that. But you're going to have Tom on. Maybe you can bring that up in the discussion, see what he thinks about it. And then one more quick one about our man Joel. They keep saying he's close, he's close, he's close. And if he's going to come back, I don't want to bring him back just for the play-in tournament. He's got to get back before the season ends to get us a seed in them top 8.
Yeah, I think what they want to do, Dave, is have him do a handful of games. And real quick, we're going to see you tomorrow?
Yeah, you're actually going to see me at the Rally House. Me and my dog Lucas are going to stop up and make a visit, hang out with you.
Nice. Dave can't wait. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Bob. We'll talk sports tomorrow. Have a great day.
You got it, buddy. Yeah, I don't think they'll just plug Joel Embiid like playoffs, here he comes. I don't think that would be the plan. His recovery might lend you to do so. I don't know. He might be amping it up and be a little more sore than he thought, and it might not be the knee. It might be different areas that he's just not there yet. I think the ultimate plan would that he plays, 3-4 games before the regular season ends and then get into the playoffs, whether it is that playoff game or whether it is a series. I don't know. And speaking of series, we're going to get into this a little bit later, but I want to correlate. You have 2 teams going for the playoffs right now, 2 teams in this city that have 10 games left in their season. We're going to look into a little bit more of who's going to go further. We'll check that out a little bit later because we'll look at their schedules for the rest of the year and see where they may wind up, talking the Flyers and the Sixers. Okay, Nick Sirianni, he did talk this morning. We carried it live here on Kincade and Salciunas. Word salad, however you want to describe it. Okay, if you want to get frustrated over it, I understand, I guess. I know Kincade and Salciunas did. Tired of him not being able to say anything. John called him ill-prepared. I've seen coaches that are really good coaches that aren't good behind the microphone. I don't hold it against it. It doesn't bother me, and especially this time of the year. I've labeled from September until January, February, that's Nick Sirianni's time to answer questions. That's his time to talk. That's his time to let us know what's going on with the football team, especially on the field. During this time period where it's after free agency, it's before the draft, the season doesn't start for another 5.5 months, this is, to me, Howie Roseman time. And if you're looking for answers for this team or what's going to happen, because what's going to happen immediately is what I just said. You still have some maybe free agents out there that you might want to pick up. You still have the draft coming up. That, to me, that's all Howie. And, yes, does Sirianni have a part? I'll listen to Sirianni after I hear what Howie Roseman says. But I don't need to hear Nick Sirianni right now that it's going to change any way that I feel. So Howie Roseman yesterday, He was asked, they're down in Orlando for the NFL, what is it, league meetings or whatever it is. So Howie Roseman was asked yesterday, first and foremost, as well as he should have been, about the Hassan Reddick situation. And all he simply said was, we're not going to talk about anyone's contract situation. Okay, so you have to dig a little deeper. They did. Reporters asked him a little bit more, and he said, yeah, I like those fastballs coming from the edge. And I'm paraphrasing here. I like those guys, that we can put in there, and he's talking about Huff being maybe more of an every down or, more than a 40% down player. And he kept saying it. I love those fastballs off the edge. I really want those guys, that are ready and fast off the edge. Okay, the guy that you're describing most is Hassan Reddick on there. And I understand the $21 million salary cap isn't all that great. But that's what you're great at. Restructure it. Get it done. I want to see how we be able to get something done there. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. I still am holding out hope that Hassan Reddick is going to be here. I'm holding out hope like all end, even though everything I've read and everything I've heard has said, oh, yeah, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. He's going to be gone. It just is a matter of what Howie gets back. Well, Howie doesn't like what he's gotten back so far. And it appears that Hassan Reddick and his team can't find anybody that's willing to either pay him what he wants or, give up what the Eagles are looking for also. So I'm holding out hope. And Howie yesterday, here's what he had to say about the edge rushers. He said, and he was talking about Huff specifically, he says that he has the tools in his body to make a difference. That anytime we obviously believe in that we don't play our edge guys 90% of the time. We believe in kind of having these fastballs off the edge and getting guys in the game. But I think this perception about that he's a liability against the run, talking about Huff, obviously, we'll see about that. Okay, you're talking fastballs off the edge. Fastballs, that means more than one guy. Right now you have Josh Sweat, you have Huff. I don't know if you can rely on a Nolan Smith. I don't know if you can rely on an aging veteran. I just don't know. When you're talking like that, to me, you're just describing Hassan Reddick. And I just think it's incumbent upon them to try to work. Even though it looks way like they're not going to get anything done, I think it's incumbent upon them to try to do something. But we'll see how that plays out, how he's not talking contracts. That was interesting the way he worded it. I'm not talking about guys' contract. Didn't say anything about trading him. I'm not talking about, where we are as far as trying to trade or trade partners or anything. Contract. That gave me a glimmer of hope. And you're shaking your head no, and so is everybody else out there. Mm-hmm. I wonder if he's trying to crunch numbers and get something done.
He should be.
He absolutely should be, right? But no, not many people think that's really nobody. I've heard nobody holding out hope besides myself. So I should take that Wilson ball that I gave to Andrew last week because he had a take that he was totally on an island. I'm on an island on this one, so I might have to hold that ball for the rest of this show. He did say something yesterday, Howie, that concerned me, Ray. And I don't know, I don't think you and I talked about this yet. But he was asked about, it's under the umbrella of the Saquon Barkley and how odd it is that you went out and paid for a running back. And he says, I think for us, it's hard to find special players at any position. How did you take that? Because when I read it, I looked at it and I said, is he saying it's hard because you're always a pretty good team and therefore you don't have high draft picks? So therefore it's hard for you to get special players at any position? Or is he kind of self-deprecating there?
I just look at it as, this is the National Football League. You're not supposed to be able to build the super team. You're not. It's difficult to acquire players of his level because there's not many on his level. I took it as more of a compliment to Saquon and just the setup of the league than anything that he's reflecting upon himself.
Well, that's wild. I think for us, it's hard to find special players at any position. I'm sorry, you have a special wide receiver in A.J. Brown that you got in a draft. You got in a trade. You have a special another wide receiver in Devontae Smith that you got in a draft. You appear to have a special quarterback that you got in a draft. You have a special tight end that many would label top 5 in the league, top 6 in the league that you got in the draft. You have offensive linemen throughout that are special, whether it's a lot of it's due to Jeff Stoutland. You just had a Hall of Famer retire. You have another Hall of Famer that's still holding down right tackle, and then another young guy in Landon Dickerson that made the Pro Bowl. I don't know. I don't understand what that meant.
I think you're caught up on the for us, and I see the for us more as a kind of a
I think it's hard
crutch
for
of
us.
speech. Like him.
Maybe it's
just,
us meeting general managers.
like just in
altogether.
general, like him saying, well, like the questions asked, well, Saquon Barkley seems to be a bit of a departure from what you normally do. What went in that decision? Well, for us, it's difficult to bring in special players in this league. It's difficult to get special players on your team.
Okay.
I see it more as he started as like a qualifier of like, oh well, yeah, you're talking about us. And
Okay, yeah, I think it's hard for us in general.
Yeah, we look at it as a difficult thing to bring in special players.
Okay.
Especially in that market.
All
for
right,
that
fair
price.
enough. All right, I guess I was looking at it not in the right. I like the way that you look at it.
That's just the way. I mean, you might be looking at it right. For me, I'd look at it the same.
It makes more sense that way. Yeah. And then talking about Saquon, he says, we think Saquon's a special player. We think he's a special person. And so when you're trying to find those guys, they're hard to find, especially on the open market. So as far as he's concerned, home run. Absolutely a home run with Saquon Barkley. I love to hear it. Everything I've seen about Barkley, did you see the little clip of him coming into the city and all that? And
yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, and his daughter and doing all those things. So, yes, I agree with Howie Roseman there. I do think you hit on something special. Now, when we get back, we'll hit on what Nick Sirianni had to say today. And I don't go too deep into words, even though the for us did get me a little bit, but you talked me through it. So it's fine. Nick Sirianni, I'll just say, he didn't say a whole lot today. Nothing that really disturbed me. Nothing that made me say, yeah, go team, go. It was a dude having breakfast in Orlando, probably has his family down there, and he's just saying, like, yeah, we haven't talked about much of anything yet, so I don't have much to tell you. But we'll look at what he had to say for a little bit. Also, at 11 o'clock, Tom McCarthy's going to join us. You know how much everybody in this city loves Tom. Talk Phillies with him, but also we'll hit on some college basketball because he just got back from calling games last weekend. This is the Midday Show. Bob Cooney here at 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Patalico, and Jen Scordo. The best show ever. Listen weekday afternoons
you as I got into the shower, and then this morning it was Brass in My Pocket from the Pretenders. I don't know why this happens, and now it's kind of, I've never thought about it that much before, but now that I said it on air, we were at lunch with friends on Sunday, and one of the guys comes up to me, he's like, seriously? Do you really wake up every day with a song in your head? I said, I don't make stuff up. I really don't. I don't make stuff up here. It makes it so much easier to have a show when you really believe in what you're saying, when you have a core foundation of what you believe in and what's the truth to you. I swear to God, I wake up every day with a song in my head. And it's kind of cool unless it's a bad song. And if it's a bad song, man, I got to wipe it out quickly. But, yeah, Brass in My Pocket was the one we had today, right?
I'm waiting for the day where, like, you got, like, Meek Mill or J. Cole or something.
Probably not, because I have to know the song in order for it to be in my head.
I'm waiting to get a little, like, rap.
I'll tell you, it's one of the disappointing things for me is that. It's the, you guys talk about something, and you'll look at me, and you'll be like, yeah, you don't know what we're talking about, because it might be that type of music. Or it might be a show that I just, haven't watched.
Yeah, that's how I feel every time someone brings up a movie around here. So that's
You don't like movies?
It's not that I don't like movies. I just haven't seen the wide variety. I've had this argument already on the air. If I have my choice, like last night, watching hoops, even if I don't know anyone, like I went UConn, Syracuse, into West Virginia, Iowa, into UCLA, Creighton, into Sixers.
Yeah.
I'd rather just watch sports.
Me too.
If I had a long experience, if I'm going to watch something for an extended amount of time, no offense to the movie makers out there, probably just going to watch sports.
Yeah, me. What was the last movie you saw?
It's a great question.
So mine was Maestro, okay, with Bradley Cooper. Random Saturday night, nothing to do, so Donna and I watched it. Same thing. We came away from it 2 hours and 36 minutes later, and I just put my palms up in the air, and I'm like, I just wasted 2 hours and 36 minutes. And because I thought Bradley Cooper was really good. I thought the storyline was horrible. It was like a badly put together story of this guy's life. And there was like the beginning, end, whatever. It was just like there was no concept of it all. It was like highlights of a person's life that, okay, that's great. Is there a story here? Because I really didn't feel like there was much of a story there. What was your last one? Do you remember?
No, I have no idea.
You don't know?
I have no idea.
You know the last movie I saw in the movie theater. Have you heard this story?
No.
Titanic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 1998, I believe it was.
Yeah, no, I would not remember that one coming out.
Yeah, not a big movie goer. But we thank all you for checking in on us today, for listening. Also, our YouTubers, you know how much we love you. I showed you, and Mopar, I owe you an apology from our YouTube page. I didn't know that he sent us a tweet. I swear I didn't see it until this morning. So I apologize, Mopar, that he had his 75-inch TV. I don't know if he was on his boat or where he was, but he had it tuned into our show on YouTube.
Wow.
And he took a picture of it and sent it to us.
That's sick.
We appreciate you, Mopar. You are the man. Okay, do we have some of these cuts from Nick Sirianni this morning? We do. All right, I'm not even going to set them up. Here's what we're going to do, Ray, because I listened to the press conference on the way in. A lot of you probably didn't hear it. What it is he's down in Orlando, and the way they do it is they're in a hotel ballroom, and coaches sit at different tables eating their breakfast, and the media scrum comes over, and they're throwing out questions left and right, and Nick Sirianni answers them. Like I said, I'm not a big diver into press conferences and all that, even though I did it for a living for a lot of times. What you have to do is just pick out anything that was a little bit relevant. I think I'll set one up, and he talks about the how he and Kellen Moore are going to work together. I think the question was something like, whose offense is it? Is it more Kellen Moore's, or is it more your offense? And this is what he had to say.
Well, I don't even think we know that yet, and there's a lot of concepts that are very similar, but I hired Kellen to do a job, and we'll mesh things together. Just like I said right from the beginning, we'll have some good things that we've done here in the past. He's going to bring some new elements to it, but to say 27% is going to be this, there's a lot of similarities within it too. And so, but again, Kellen's just doing a good job of leading the offense, and we're really excited about that.
Okay. I don't have much problem with that. Like, they haven't really dove into exactly how they're going to run the offense. You have 5.5 months before the season starts, so obviously a couple of months before you're probably getting players together. Yeah, it's something that they're probably doing. He further went on to say, when they were like, well, what about this kind of situation? He's like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you like what our philosophy is offensively. That's an advantage to other teams, so I don't want to tell you that. So that answer, again, you don't really get a whole lot out of it. He did talk about, let me see if I can find this one on here. He talked about how the team has, number 6, has so many weapons and how they're going to kind of play off each other on it.
When you walk in the door and this individual is really good, this individual is really good, this individual is really good, you want to be able to spread the ball around to them. Week in, week out, it's not going to be that easy to do so, right? AJ's first game, right, he had 10 catches for 155 yards against Detroit. And do you remember how many Devonta had? 0 for none. And he ended up having 1,000 yards that year. And so what's important in the process of a season is that we build the connection, we build the team, right? And so that everyone's, regardless of how much they're eating, everyone's excited for each other. And that's what's important. And that's what's going to be happening that's what I'm excited about, building, the team, our core values, our culture over these next months, so that when something like that does happen, because inevitably it will, you don't go in with an assumption that it's going to happen ever, but sometimes it does, that everyone's happy for each other and we get in the locker room because we won the football game and everyone's pumped up. And that's something that you have to work on.
That is the pet peeve of one Andrew Salciunas, the core value that Nick Sirianni loves to bring up, and he'll mention what the 4 or 5, whatever they are, core value things are. Okay, coaches have their philosophy, coaches have their thing. I saw the coach of West Virginia women last night in the locker room talking about, look, we are this, and he put his hand like in a shell. This is us. We're together. Nobody breaks that. Don't you forget that. And then during the game, I don't know if you noticed it, Ray, West Virginia was making a nice comeback, and they play a really tough physical game, and he kept doing it, putting his hands together. Us. It's just us. Let's go. It's us. Coaches have their, for lack of a better term, core values that they like to tell team over and over again. Nick Sirianni, maybe he does overdo it, but that's what he believes in, so I thought you'd want to hear that. All right, last thing here, and really the only thing I took from this was somebody asked, with Kelsey now gone, does Cam Jurgens totally just take over the adjustments in protection, all of those things? And I thought Sirianni's answer was a little interesting.
I don't have to make that decision for a long, long time. And so we'll see. We got walkthroughs to go through. We got training camp. We got OTAs as far as what that looks like. Cam's got a ton of reps. If it is Cam, he's got a ton of reps doing that too. And like Jason didn't take every snap at center last year in practice. So, I'm really confident that he can do it. We're really confident, but we'll see what happens.
If it is Cam, he's been listening to the show, Ray. I said if there's a center out there that you really love, that you want to take with that 22nd pick, go ahead and get him. Cam, you're okay over at right guard. He's been listening to us, Ray. So just a couple of little snippets from Nick Sirianni. Like I said, I didn't really get all that much out of it, and I don't want to sit here and kind of bore you with it. I'm sure it'll be talked about more today. If you're interested in it, let me know, 610-632-0975, or give us a text at that same number. Great guest coming up, 11 o'clock, the great Tom McCarthy. Talk about everything that's Phillies coming up in a couple of days, and also he just got done covering the NCAA tournament. This is Midday Show. Bob Cooney here at 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
We heard from the birds. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by
Today's show's 11 o'clock hour. It's brought to you by Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. You know, sometimes, Ray, you don't want to hesitate on things in life. Like the anticipation is something you just want to, like, jump over to get to the actual event. Well, that's what I'm going to do right now. No hesitation here. We have Tom McCarthy on the line. We go right to him on the Comcast Business Hotline. Tom, how you doing this morning? Thanks for joining us.
Bob, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great.
Are you all rested
really
up?
Serious, like that opening, and breaking news. Here's Bob Cooney.
That's right. That's the journalist in me, Tom. I'm trying to copy you.
Right.
So, are you all recovered from your all your travels? You were in where you were Omaha. Where were you? Where were you again?
I was in Omaha.
Omaha, yeah.
Omaha.
Yeah. How was it?
It was great. It was great. I mean, you know how great the NCAA tournament is, and it's even better when the crowds are as big as they were there. So close to Iowa State, so close to Drake, so close to Illinois. Well, I mean, within reason. Marshall Harris was telling me it took like 7 hours to drive from Chicago to get to, for him to do his reporting and stuff like that. So, but it was great. It was great.
And you were fantastic. If when you have like 4 or 5 different games on or 4 different games on, Tom, you know how it is NCAA tournament time. You usually go to the best game that you can find. Nah, I just went to whatever game you were calling.
Well, I appreciate that. We had some good games. The only one that wasn't good was the Duquesne game, the second Duquesne game, which, I didn't know. I mean, listen, Illinois is way better than I ever thought they would be, quite frankly. Danny Hurley said that you need to have offense in these kind of tournaments because you're not going to win 6, 7 in a row in order to do that. And I'll tell you, I mean, he's right. And Illinois has taken that and run with it because they are really good offensively.
It has been a fun tournament so far. But now you kind of slide back to your real job, Tom. Now it's time for you to get ready. Hopefully it's Thursday because it's closer than Friday. But all indications seem to be like it might be held off until Friday. But we had Tim Kirkchin on, or the morning show had Tim Kirkchin on today. And he talked about something I wanted to ask you about. He talked about the Phillies clubhouse having that collegiate feel and how important that is and how great that is for this team. Have you felt that with this team over the last few years, and is it something that's grown and gotten better, Tom?
I do think it's grown and gotten better. They are very close. I mean, they do. I mean, and I think a lot of clubhouses are, so it's not like it's anything new for this one. But I think from a winning standpoint, they're really close. I mean, they are on a lot of different levels. And I liken it to the 08, 09, the 10 group, where they were so close-knit and nothing really fazed them. They vacationed together. They did all these kind of things together, and I think this group has done the same thing. I like it because there's familiarity. Do I miss Reese? Yes, because he's kind of my go-to guy, but, there's others in there. I mean, you're not going to find a higher quality person than Kyle Schwarber, I mean, on every level. And Jeff Hoffman and people like that. I mean, it is a good group. Brandon Marsh. I mean, this is a good group, and it's good for all of us, too, because we have such good rapport with them, and that makes life a lot easier.
Well, we talk about this team, and there wasn't a lot of change going from last year to this year. Reese Hoskin, yes, but you didn't have him last year. And then not a lot of change as far as everyday players and your starting pitching at all. If there's a place, though, Tom, where you think you're going to see the biggest improvement, the biggest place where this team gets better, where do you think it might be?
Well, I think it's first out of necessity, it has to be the 4th and 5th starters. That's out of necessity. I'm not saying that's where it's going to be, but I think it has to be in order for this team to be successful. I think the other part that's going to show vast improvement is the infield defense all the way around from 3rd to 1st. I just think it's going to be just so much better on every level if spring training is any indication at all. So that, to me, is going to be a big deal for a lot of this team. I saw the other day that the bullpen was ranked number 1 in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
That's really interesting since they don't really have a closer, a specific closer. But I think that's okay. So I don't think that's going to be an improvement. I think that's just going to be steady compared to the way it was last year, and I think that's a good thing. But to me, it's the infield defense. I think that's going to be drastically improved, and I think that's going to mean a lot of success for this team. And I also, if I want to specifically point to one player, I'm going to go to Brandon Marsh. I think he's going to be drastically improved as a player, as an overall player. And I think that's going to be a big deal for this team.
Tom, let me get back to the defensive part of it. It's interesting because we did see Alec Boehm at third base get so much better last year. Had an unbelievable play. I don't know if you saw it. I think it was Sunday. Went up in the air, made a great stab. Bryce Harper, another year.
Yep.
Bryce Harper, another year at first base, can only get better with the athleticism that he has. But and Bryson Stott is Bryson Stott, which is very good. But all the eyes go to that shortstop, and who didn't have a good fielding year last season. I have said it on the morning show. I really don't worry about Trey Turner's defense. I think he's really good, but he had a bad year last year. Do you think that's more the case, and maybe was it related to the bat woes also?
Well, I think there's something to I think there is some correlation to that. He has had years where he's had errors in the 20s.
Yes.
But I thought last year it was just different. It was a rash of errors. And if Major League Baseball did not tinker with the way they score games, he should have had more errors. And, we have official scores at our place. Mike McConey being the main guy and Mark Gola, they're really good. Like they didn't adhere to the change in the scoring that Major League Baseball, where that department, that statistical department sort of mandated. They stayed with it. But around the league, if we went on the road, they would score balls, hits that should have been errors. So it should have been even more than that. But I do think that there was a correlation to it. He's going to be better. He's definitively going to be better. You can see it in the way he's practiced, the way he's worked. I just think he's going to be drastically better this year. And I'm with you. I do not worry about Trey Turner. And I think that the August 4th to the end of the year numbers are more indicative of the guy that we're going to see on an every game basis.
So a lot of the big stories surrounding the Phillies, and we're talking with Tom McCarthy here on the Comcast Business Hotline. But Tom, a lot of the talk has been about center field and Johan Rojas and should he or shouldn't he? And what's your thoughts on it? Conventional baseball wisdom is what in your mind?
I think he should start in center field and just let him go. And if it doesn't work in a month, then you make an adjustment. I just think he's that good defensively. I think he's going to hit 250, and I think he's going to hit more than that as he gets older. They have safety nets if it doesn't work out. They've got Pache, who I think is in the same boat. I mean, he hasn't established himself as a major leaguer, or they could easily move Brandon Marsh back there and then tinker with left field. But I think he has to be out there on an every game basis to start. And you have to let him go. I don't think defensively, it's elite. It's top shelf center field. And I do think he's going to hit enough. Now, maybe that's just Pollyanna from my standpoint, and I'm anticipating a drastic change. I do think he's going to hit. And I just think you put him out there and let him roll. I really do. I think this lineup has enough offense. As long as they get something out of left field, then I think it has enough offense where you can put him out there and let him go.
Yeah, I've come to that conclusion also after talking it over because, and you might have this off the top of your head, if you look around Major League Baseball, would I be wrong to say the majority of teams have a really good defensive center fielder that doesn't hit well, a really good shortstop that defends but doesn't hit well? Pick your position. I would think most teams have a guy like that, right?
Well, most good teams, I think, have a guy like that, Bob. I really do. And I'm telling you, my eyes have not seen anything like this in a long time, defensively in center field. And, he's enjoyable to watch. It's a Glanville-esque, if not better, center field. It's a Gary Maddox, maybe not to that level yet, center field, but it's ever evolving. So I'm excited for him. I know he's going to work. And if it doesn't work out in the first month and you think he needs to go back down, okay, then send him back down. But I think you got to let him go the first month of the season.
I would term the last two seasons as really good, borderline great seasons, whereas in 2022, you didn't expect that team to get to the World Series. They did. Yes, they fell to the Astros the way they did. Then last year, you get to the NLCS, disappointing, no question about it. So I would still grade the last 2 years as really good. However, they didn't get the ultimate prize. What do you think is maybe something that they needed and maybe they have now or they might still need, Tom, to get them over the hump to get that ultimate goal?
I think that they're really disappointed with last year. I don't think they were disappointed with the year before. Obviously, they wanted to win the World Series, but I'm with you. I don't think anybody expected that they were going to go to the World Series. I think last year they expected to win the World Series, and I think that really disappointed them. So I think that hurt and disappointment is what they need going into this year. Physically, player-wise, they haven't really made any adjustments. And, do I think they probably need more offense in the outfield? I mean, obviously, Whit Merrifield is the one addition in the outfield, but he's not going to play on an everyday basis. But I think he's going to help. Do I think they need another bat in left field? Maybe. They might need that, but I think they'll go get it. Do I think they need a fourth or fifth starter? They might, but I think they'll go get it if they do. But I think the taste in their mouth from losing last year to the Diamondbacks is what they need to inspire them for this year. I do think it's not sitting well with them still that they lost that series, that they even came back from Arizona without the trophy. So I think that's part of what's going to drive them this year. I really do.
We have had many, and I'm sure you have too, debates about Kyle Schwarber leading off. And look, it's a done deal. There's really no more discussion to be had. It's going to happen. That's what Rob Thompson wants to do. They have a winning record like in the 620s, somewhere around 620, 630, when Kyle Schwarber leads off. Is it that simple, Tom? Is it like, look, you put him there and the team wins, why think anything more of it?
Well, I think it is for now. It's funny, when we talked to Rob at the beginning of spring training, he was talking about Bryson Stott possibly being a leadoff hitter. But it's one of those things that whether you agree with it or not, it's not going to change. So, and it is true, Bob. I mean, here, the winning percentage it's funny. It is funny how they win with him as the leadoff hitter, and I'm fine with it. I think if he can cut down on his strikeouts, and he's talked about that, and if he can make more contact the second time through the order, then I think they'll be okay. Because it is only the first time through the order that, it's affecting him. Now, if there was a pitcher batting ninth, maybe they would change it. But it's a position player, so there's guys for him to drive in. And I think that's the key, is for him to drive in runs. Hit home runs, but drive in runs. And I think that's why his priority is to try to make more contact this year. It's one of those things, I know it is a debate for a lot of fans, and I'm cool with that. But it's not going to change, at least for the foreseeable future. So embrace it and let it evolve. They did win last year with it. And even though people don't think it's the right thing to do, for Rob Thompson right now, for the psyche of the player and the clubhouse, I think it is the right thing to do.
So, Tom, if you look at 2 years ago, we talked about World Series. Last year, another successful season with a very bitter ending. If I were to ask you if this is the best of the three teams, 22, 23, and this year 24,
Ooh.
Would you say yes? And if so, why? Or
Boy,
why not?
That's a really good question. Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's better than 2 years ago because Trey Turner's at shortstop on an everyday basis. I think it's better than 2 years ago because the bullpen is better. So I would say that, yes, it is better. It is the best team that they have. But it's hard to argue with the success of a World Series and a pennant-winning team.
Yeah.
I go back to 2008. They won the World Series championship, but were they better than 09 or 10?
No.
I don't know.
I say no right away.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. But it's hard. But sometimes what we have on paper doesn't matter compared to what we have on grass.
Right.
So on paper, this is probably a better team. But on grass, that team won the National League pennant, so it's really hard to say that this one's better. I think this one's better. I do. But
sounds like you just talked yourself into it, Tom.
No, I do think it's better. but I also think that that they have a lot to prove. I mean, the 2009 team won the pennant, and but this one is better. I mean, think about it. They won the pennant with a half a season of Dede not doing much. Yeah.
Alec Boehm and Bryson Stott 2 years younger. That's my big key.
But they're better now.
That's what I mean. That's why I think this team this year might be better because of those two being older and better.
Got to do it on the field.
That's right.
On the field.
That's right. And you'll be doing it behind the microphone, Tom, and we love listening to you all the time. We appreciate you taking a couple minutes with us, and we'll be talking to you throughout the season if it's okay with you.
All right, buddy.
All right, thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. Tom McCarthy here with us on the Comcast Business Hotline. That's why I love talking sports with people, because I asked him a question about, like, what's the biggest thing that has to improve? We've had many, many conversations in these offices, and we do it off mic all the time about, why are the Phillies better than this? He went right to the biggest thing that might be better this year is the infield defense. I can honestly say in the hundreds of conversations we've had about the Phillies, that never came up once. And that's one thing that Tom McCarthy brought up with us. Then he went to the fourth and fifth starters, which I thought was pretty solid last year. In Taijuan Walker started well. I didn't realize it. I read it in the paper today, and I'll give you a little. I'll give you the stat. Taijuan Walker had a streak where he was like 10-1 over 11 games last year. At some point, I didn't know that, and an unbelievably good ERA. And I thought Christopher Sanchez was solid last year. But Tom's there. Tom knows it. Tom talks to everybody every day. Obviously, they weren't totally happy with that fourth and fifth starter there. But great stuff from Tom McCarthy. I should have asked him who he had winning the NCAA tournament. I have a feeling he mentioned the team kind of while he was talking, and that was talking about Danny Hurley and Connecticut. So I think that's probably where he's going. But so glad that Tom could join us there. Always good to talk to him. It was funny, he brought up NCAA tournament. I remember one time, this was probably before you, Ray. No, it was probably about 10 years ago or so. There was a regional here. And UCLA was playing, and Drew Holiday was playing for UCLA, I believe. Anyway, I'm on the court before the game talking to somebody, and I get a tap on the shoulder, and I turn, and it's Tom. And I'm like, yo, you're working these games? Yeah, and it's always great to be at tournaments when people that you like and respect are working them also. So hearing Tom's another one. I used to say when I was on the road with the Sixers, you're on the road and things are getting a little, mundane or rundown, whatever it may be. Whenever Tom McGinnis was near me, seating-wise, so it was especially true in Boston, is the one place that always comes to my mind. My seat was about 4 over from Tom's, and you're just tired of being on the road. When you hear Tom calling a game next to you while you're working, I don't know. There's just like a comfort thing. And it's the same thing with McCarthy. I just love listening to his voice, love hearing him call a game, the passion that he has. And he was phenomenal in the NCAA. I don't know if you had a chance to see any of his games,
he's great.
But, yeah, he was absolutely phenomenal. So, all right, when we get back, I want to take a closer look at this Phillies team in some areas of specific. Because as I asked Tom, where is a place that you think they're going to be better? And he went to infield defense. I have some other places that I'm thinking of, and maybe you do too. 610-632-0975. Give us a call. We'll talk about it. Or if you want to text in at that same number, you more than happy to have you do that also. So when we get back, it's Phillies. Want to talk a little bit about where do you see the best improvement coming from this team? Or maybe you don't. Maybe you don't think this team's better than last year's team. Let us know. 610-632-0975. This is Midday Show. Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic. Talked about last week. Ray, you're wearing Tuesday like it should be worn today. All right, we went to the break. Your shoes untied. You're kind of shuffling along. You got the little head cold or whatever going a little bit. And I just looked at you and I was like, is today Wednesday? Because it just felt like it was. You're like, no, it's only Tuesday.
It's only Tuesday.
Yeah, you're wearing Tuesday a little bit, but that's good.
Yeah.
That's all right.
I mean, it's just, it's
because
just
when you
not great.
acknowledge the bad, it makes the good that much better.
Which I'm hoping is Wednesday.
Yeah. Tuesday's just a crap day.
Yeah, I would prefer not to feel like this regardless of the day of the week, but at least it's on a Tuesday and not another day.
It is only Tuesday, and tomorrow we will be out at Fairless Hills Rally House.
That's right.
Yeah, so Bill Colarulo will be there for the whole time. Come on out, check, say hello, get some stuff there. I know you and I are going to walk out of there, probably Bill too, with some swag under our, well, not swag, bought swag. Is swag bought or is swag given or?
I mean, there's different. I think in the way you were using it, yeah, you buy the swag.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the
All
gear.
right. No, I didn't. I did buy a Phillies thing that I have at Rally House that I might wear tomorrow.
Ooh, maybe
Yeah.
I'll do something
Oh, no,
similar.
wait. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Got to save Philly stuff for Thursday and Friday. I don't have that many Phillies. I don't have that
Really?
many team stuff.
Oh, I got a lot of Philly stuff.
Well, I only started wearing team stuff when I took this job. Because
That's
at my
right,
other job,
because, yeah,
you don't wear team stuff.
that's
there.
right. I forgot that you didn't wear
Yeah, so
your
it's-
Philly stuff into the office.
No, so it's been nice enough that once I took this job, that some of the teams they like to give us shirts and hoodies and stuff like that
Really?
every once in a while.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So I've been able to
I look forward to that.
gather some of that stuff. All right, you have to stay tuned because pretty soon I am going to give out 2 tickets to tomorrow night's Sixers-Clippers game, and after the game, you get to come down on the floor and play knockout against all of us here at the station. So get ready for that. 2 tickets to give away, and if you're smart, you'll line up behind Ray and look to knock him out at knockout, as he is one of the prohibited favorites here at the station.
I'm not a favorite. No.
No. What did you put yourself as?
Plus 800.
Plus 800?
Yeah.
Wow. I think you're selling yourself a little short there.
No, I think you haven't seen me shoot a basketball.
Oh, okay. That could be, too. All right. Steve on the cell wants to talk his frustration with the Sixers. What's going on, Steve?
Well, first of all, I'm already going to be at Knockout with you guys tomorrow.
Oh, can't wait.
I was blessed with some tickets last week, and you guys, I'm going to kick butt and take names, so you better be ready.
All right. I can't promise I'll be ready, but I'm all for you kicking butt and taking names.
All right. So I have look, dude, 4 for 4 guy, but I am really, really sick and tired for years about the 76ers medical staff. I saw Oubre a few days ago take a nasty spill. I saw that. But he finished the game. He finished strong. Why wasn't he playing yesterday? These guys are supposed to have world-class doctors, world-class medical team. Robert Covington has been out forever. You know, you want to take a player at its word and the medical team at its word, but this has been years. This has been years that we've had literally the worst medical team in all of the NBA, and I'm sick of it. A few weeks ago with Maxey, he got kneed in the head, all right? He finished the game. He finished strong. And I think we beat the Mavericks. He was out the next 4 games with concussion-like symptoms. We have literally the worst medical team in basketball, and I'm sick of it. And that's
the worst. Why, Steve? You keep throwing out the worst. Why? Because they have so many injuries, or because of the way they handle injuries?
It's because the way they handle injuries.
I honestly can't speak to that. I don't know. Like, I did see early on when I was covering the Sixers, and thanks, Steve, that you had cases of Nerlens Noel was ready to come back and play with his knee, but they decided to keep him out for the season. Cases that Ben Simmons was confident he was going to recover from his foot surgery and be back for the season, and he was out for the season. Cases of Jahlil Okafor had a meniscus problem. They kept playing him, then got him surgery, said he was going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, and it turned into months, 6 months that he was out or hobbled by that knee. There has been instances. I can't label them the worst, or if there's been bad luck with injury with the Sixers. I don't know which way I'd go on that. When I'm not fully educated, not fully, but when I don't feel properly educated on knowing about something, I have a hard time calling them the best or the worst. I can't go that far. And nothing, Steve. Thank you. Appreciate it, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Make sure you do kick all those guys' ass out on that court. But
And yours.
I just can't see it. I can't see calling somebody the worst when I'm not fully educated on. Okay, Embiid's been out for 7.5, 8 weeks. You said it was going to be 4 to 6. You're the worst medical staff ever. I just can't because I don't have all the information. But I understand the frustration. Absolutely understand it. So maybe we'll get more word on that. I'm thinking tomorrow, Ray. I'm thinking tomorrow now that the team's back and they'll gather, and whether there's a shoot around tomorrow morning or whether the media from here gets together with Nick Nurse and the team, I think we'll get some more answers there. Okay, I said before the break, I wanted to dive into this Phillies team a little bit because the disappointment, I thought Tom put it perfectly. Tom McCarthy, when he was on with us, put it perfectly that, look, that disappointment from last year is real, and it should be, and you should carry that through. I asked him straight on, is this a better team this year than the last couple of years? He had to think about it, and so that was cool. So what I did is here, I want to compare this year's team to last year's team. Okay, Ray? And take a look and see, in my mind, maybe yours also. Let me know, 610-632-0975, if I'm hitting this on the head. Okay, I'm gonna go position by position and give the subject a look to see if it's better this year or if it was better last year. Now, Bryce Harper missed a lot of last season with the elbow. This is a slam dunk. Played first base last year. We looked at it and said, oh, my God, this guy's an athlete. He can play first base. He's going to have a full year at first base. He has a full year healthy. I think you're better this year. Check mark this year, first base. Second base, Bryson Stott. You want to say another year of growth, another year of being in the majors, a full-time second baseman who was very close to a Gold Glove second baseman last year, who John Kruk, Tom McCarthy, they speak all the time about this guy possibly being a batting champion in the National League in years to come. I can't see that how Bryson Stott isn't even better or at least the same as last year because it's another year, because he has another year playing defense with Trey Turner. I got to give him a check in the positive also. Let's go to Trey Turner. Tim Kirkjian, who was on this show earlier, not this show, who was on this station earlier today on with Salciunas and Kincade, last year sat in with us when Trey Turner was at 238 and was looking horrible. And I am not kidding you that he turned to me without blinking an eye and said, Trey Turner's fine. He'll be fine for the rest of the year. He'll hit over 300. Trey Turner hit like 328 for the rest of the year. From that day on, Tim Kirkjian hit it spot on. I don't see Trey Turner being as bad at the plate for that long of a time this year. I think he's a 290, 295 hitter. I think that's what we're going to see after a year here. His defense, you heard Tom McCarthy talk about it. I guess you could label it as suspect. And John Kincaid's probably throwing his hands in the air right now saying, what are you talking about? He's the worst shortstop in the National League. He also gets to a lot of really hard hit balls that a lot of shortstops wouldn't get to. His defense doesn't bother me. I give him another check as to say I think he's going to be better this year. Alec Boehm, the defensive improvement that he showed last year I thought was remarkable. I don't know how much better it can get. His bat last year, really good. One of 6 Phillies to hit 20 or more home runs. I'm putting him as a wash, which isn't anything bad. I think he's going to be as good as he was last year. Possibility of a slight fall off. Possibility of maybe getting a little bit better, but I'm going to call that a wash. JT Realmuto, is he on the downslide of his career? Possibly, maybe even probably. I'm going to put that as a slight downtick because I don't think last year was all that bad. He worked on his swing all summer long, said he got into the office, watched tape, knows what he was doing and what he needs to do better. But I just think it's going to be, at best, what it was last year, which wasn't too bad. But I don't even know if it's going to be that. So I'm not even going to put that as a wash. I'm going to put that as a slight downtick. Now, your outfield, this is interesting. Because of the injury to Harper last year, your starting left fielder was Kyle Schwarber. Now, it's Marsh. Now, we have to keep in mind Schwarber's still going to be hitting. I give an uptick because you have to go to the defensive side because Marsh's bat was in the lineup out in center field anyway. So I'll give the uptick to left field. Center field, you have Rojas there instead of Marsh. Marsh is a good fielder, is a good center fielder. Rojas is a terrific, unbelievably good outfielder. But Marsh might hit 100 points higher than him at the plate. So I'm going to have to give last year's center field, Mark, better on that one. Nick Castellanos, I said last year what I wanted from him was a combination, doubles and triples, to be over 63, I think I put it. He was well over 29 home runs, I think like 35 RBIs. I think you're getting that again from him this year at the age of 32. Maybe a downslide on the 29 home runs. I don't know if he's that guy. But Citizens Bank Park, it kind of is a hitter's dream. And he is an inside-out hitter. He'll take the ball to right field an awful lot. He can get out in front of some pitches, too. I think there's a little downslide in the power, but I think overall Nick Castellanos is going to be a wash. And now your DH, Kyle Schwarber, 47 home runs, 49 home runs, 200 batting average. I think his batting average is a Phillies 207 or something like that. We know how frustrating that is. But when you compare it to last year, when it wasn't him and it wasn't Bryce Harper for a little bit, you're talking, who was it? Jake Cave, Clemens, Cody Clemens, some other guys. Huge uptick in that. You know who your DH is. He can be there every day. Plus the versatility of, if you would like to, have somebody else DH, have Schwarber out in left field and mix and match and all that stuff. I just think that's an uptick, too. So offensively and defensively, there's a lot more positives I see here on this Phillies team. Now, we didn't get into pitching yet. We'll get into that a little bit later. But as far as that goes, that's where I see it. And maybe it's the 3 days before opening day optimism, but I don't think so. I think that's the reality of it. 610-632-0975. Let me know what you think. You agree with how I just laid out this Phillies lineup for this year? Or do you disagree? Do you see that they're in for maybe a downslide somehow? This is the Midday Show. Bob Cooney here at 97.5 The Fanatic.
The Eagles.
said that, why are we talking about the Phillies being canceled on Thursday? It's only supposed to rain in the morning. That's supposed to be beautiful in the afternoon. Game's not until 3:30. Huh. Going to have to check on that. We'll see. I don't know. But a couple days away, we talked to Tom McCarthy about the Phillies. Great talking to him. We have Jimmy Lynam coming up at 1 o'clock, so can't wait to get some Sixers talk in with the coach. In a little bit, I'll give you a pair of knockout tickets so you can come join us tomorrow night as the Sixers take on the Clippers. And, Ray, our new feature that we have here, not even a week old yet, is our text number, which is the same as our call-in number, 610-632-0975. What do the texters have to say to us today, Ray?
Yeah, we got some people checking in. Mike in Levittown wanted to check in about your question about whether or not this team was better than last year. He says, for certain, this year's team is better. A healthy Bryce Harper and Whit Merrifield instead of Jake Cave. That's significant.
I'll tell you what, and that's a great point. What was his name?
Mike.
Mike. Great point, Mike. I didn't bring up Whit Merrifield. A huge upgrade on the bench. Huge from anything that they had last year. I failed to bring that up, and that is another really good one. It's great. I think baseball talk is so much fun because there's so many different ways you can go. I asked Tom McCarthy about it. I never even thought for a second that one of the biggest improvements of this team this year might be the infield defense. And it's the first place that Tom McCarthy, an expert on the team, went. So much to do, Phillies Talks. I have some more numbers here that I want to do now that I want to throw out to the people to see what they think it's over-unders on this Phillies team, individuals, as a team. I'm going to put them in the books and see what everybody might say, but it's going officially in the book, Ray, so it's going to last there all year. Tasty Cake Dom checking in on the Phillies. What's going on, Dom?
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Doing great. How about you, buddy?
I'm doing great. So Amy was terrific yesterday.
Yeah, she's good, isn't she?
Your guests have been, off the charts, Bob.
There's good people in this city, Dom.
I can't tell you how great you're doing on the show.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I listened to what you just said, Bob. I agree with everything. I think JT might regress a little bit more than you do.
Okay.
I hope not. And then I don't trust Castellanos a little bit. The one thing I wanted to say to you was I wish Reese is a butcher at first base, but you had right in the middle of that that right-handed bat that's going to hit 30 bombs. And all your power is coming from the left side now.
Yeah.
I think that concerns me a little bit.
I agree with you. I've said all along that I didn't love the fact that you had Marsh and Rojas in left and center, two outfielders that, what are they going to combine for? 20, 25 home runs? I don't love that. I don't like that lack of pop.
Yep. You guys are going to be at Rally House tomorrow, Bobby?
Rally House tomorrow in Fairless Hills, Dom.
I'm going to try to because I want to give Ray a hug because I feel a little bad. Ray's my man.
He needs a hug.
Friday, especially because Friday, that Duke tidal wave's going to knock Houston out, and that's going to wreck Ray's pool. So I feel bad for that.
Ouch.
Wow.
Dom, listen, have a great day. Hope to see you tomorrow. That would be awesome. Wow.
I thought he heard my voice
came
today.
Out firing.
Thought he was like, wow, Ray could really use a hug. It just doesn't sound like he's in it today. Instead, no, it's because my bracket's going to be crushed by Duke. That hurts.
Yeah.
I'm going to accept the hug, but I'm a little taken aback.
He's going to give you a hug and kind of like pinch your ears at the same time or something to bring you back to reality.
I'm going to have to watch out. He might give me a hug. He might just stick the dagger in my back there.
I don't know what that was all about. That's
wow,
kind of strange.
It was a real good job by him. That was a haymaker to the face. I didn't expect that at all.
Wow. It's like I'm rooting for you, but I hope to God you lose. Like, I don't know. I'm a little surprised at Dom's actions there.
That was tough to take.
But that's who Dom is. That's who he is. All right, I have the list right here, Ray. I have the list. We have to figure out a way to do this. I can throw it out there and give you my numbers and what I think, or you can call us at 610-632-0975. I'll give you an over-under on this Phillies team, on individual players, and you can give me what say you. It will go in the book. We'll revisit it when the season is over, and we'll figure it all out that way. But I wanted to get to this pitching. So we look at last year, Ray, and we're going to have to go a broad horizon if we're talking about this when it comes to the Phillies pitching. We just went up and down, offense and defense, position by position. We found it hard to find any positives from this year compared to last year when we went that way. The only maybe downslide, and Dom has it bigger than I do, is JT Realmuto at catcher. And JT Realmuto's numbers last year were not JT Realmuto-like, but not that bad. If you're talking about a guy that's out there catching every day, 252 average, 310 on-base percentage, 20 home runs, 63 RBIs with 16 stolen bases. Okay. I mean, that's like, okay, nothing to write home about, nothing to go crazy. Probably very disappointing for JT Realmuto. But if you get that again this year, I'm kind of okay with it. Do I expect it? I think it's going to be even a little down more this year than it was last year. Other numbers that Phillies posted last year, I'm going to put them out there to you. I'm going to ask you when you give us a call, 610-632-0975. Give us any topic you want, but I'm going to throw you an over-under on the Phillies, individual and team. I'll put you in the book. We'll see where we stand. But as we're looking at this year compared to last year, and when we get to the pitching, we're going to have to go with just the bullpen. We're going to have to go generalization in the bullpen because we're not going to break down every guy. MLB.com came out with best bullpen in baseball. Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the bullpen's better this year than it was last year then. You don't have a closer. You might have 3 or 4 guys that can close for you, that maybe one of those will come out as your closer before all is said and done. But as Major League MLB.com said, best bullpen in baseball. So that has to be an upgrade from last year. No more Kimbrel closing for you, which was good for most of the year, and then fell. I don't like the way Rob Thompson used him, but he also didn't pitch well last part of the year. So let's go through the starting lineup, starting pitching. Aaron Nola this year signs the contract in the offseason. He was 12-9 with a 4.46 ERA last year. Did give you 193 and 2/3 innings. A lot of strikeouts, again, over 200. I got to believe that 4.46 ERA is going to be better this year. I just do. And whether it's the money thing is settled in his mind, they talked about the pitch clock, having another year with that is going to be better for him. I think he's going to be better. Zach Wheeler, 13-6, a 3.61 ERA, 192 innings, 212 strikeouts. I hate to say it. I don't think he's going to be as good this year. I don't know why. That's a really good year by him, a 3.61 ERA, a lot of innings pitched. If he can be the same, he's still one of the top. I think we're going to have a little dip from Zach Wheeler this year.
Really?
You don't?
No. I
don't know why I say that.
The 3.61 is the worst ERA he's had as a Phil for a season.
You're changing my mind?
Yeah,
Or is he getting older and that's why he only wanted to sign a 3-year contract? Is it? I'm going to go down. We're going to have to be quicker on this. I'm going down on Wheeler. Taijuan Walker got you 15 wins last year, had a 4.38 ERA, had a span of 11 games where he was phenomenal. Starting the year hurt this year, I think that's a little bit of a downslide. However, Ranger Suarez, I think, is a huge upside. He only started 22 games last year. He never seemed to be ready at the beginning of the season. He's ready now. I think he's going to be a workhorse for you this year. Christopher Sanchez, if you can get the same out of him as what you got last year, I'm kind of okay. You're going to have to get more starts. He only started 19 games or 18 games, something like that. You're going to get more production out of him. Is he going to be better because he's out there longer? I'm going to say yeah. So overall, the pitching staff, I'm going to give it a thumbs up better. So we looked at offense and defense. We looked at the pitching staff. It's hard to say this Phillies team isn't going to be better than last year when they accumulated a 90-72 winning percent, or 90-72 record. All right, coming up on the show, 1 o'clock, Jimmy Lynam's going to join us to talk Sixers. Before that, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the Sixers, but also into this Phillies team. What are you anticipating? What do you see? I have a lot of numbers that I want to throw out there to you to say, are you taking the 0632-0975? This is Midday Show. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Coming up at 2, the best show ever with Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Batalico, and Jen Scordo. Right now, it's Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic, and 97.5thefanatic.com.
All right, so looking up the weather here for Thursday, a steady rain in the morning, showers continuing in the afternoon, high 51, winds north-northwest at 10 to 15 miles an hour, chance of rain 70%, around a quarter inch of rain. I don't want to be tailgating in that. I don't want to sit through that to see what if, whatever. So let's go to Friday. Mostly sunny skies, high near 55. Winds, windy, 15 to 25 mile an hour, higher wind gusts possible. Oh, the ball's going to be flying out on Friday. Could be a good day for your fighting Phillies. I really do. I do anticipate that tomorrow, not only might we get word on Joel Embiid, but I think we'll get word from Major League Baseball or the Phillies, whoever makes that announcement, that they will hold that game off until Friday for the season opener, which is why you have that extra day there. So sunny and windy on Friday. I'm all for that instead of dodging the raindrops on Thursday. So here's hoping, fingers crossed, that they get it right. So on the morning show today with Kincade and Salciunas, Tim Kirkjian was on with them talking all things Philly. And I wanted to share a little bit of it with you in case you didn't get to hear, because the optimism that Tim Kirkjian has towards this Phillies team, and Tim's great. One of my favorite national people in all of sports. And he came out the first thing in the first cut, Ray. He talks about the feel of this Phillies team and how it's kind of different from anybody else.
I was very, very impressed by the whole Philly operation in Florida. I love that clubhouse. I've told you guys this before. Schwarber, Harper, the rest of those guys bring a collegiate atmosphere to a major league clubhouse, which is unique these days. That team is really good. The Braves are better than them. The Dodgers are better than them. There's no other team in the National League better than the Phillies other than those two teams right now. And given how well they've done for the most part in the postseason, I think the Phillies are a very dangerous team opening up.
Does that satisfy you as a listener? Tim Kirkjian, who has seen every play over the last 30 years, who has seen every team, who is dialed in as well as anybody in Major League Baseball, comes out and says, look, Phillies are the third best team in the National League. We all know how much money the Dodgers spent to go out and get the dream team that they have. We all know how much the Braves just keep accumulating talent, growing talent, signing them to unbelievably good team-friendly contracts. Those are two really loaded teams. But Kirkjian had no problem saying, yeah, but the Phillies are right there with them, and with their playoff success, they're right there. Does it kind of roll off your back because we've heard that so many years about the Sixers since Joel Embiid has been playing? So many years about the Eagles, and yes, they did go to a Super Bowl and lose it a couple of years ago, but these exact words, best team in their conference, they were uttered before last year, and the Eagles had that awful 7-game stretch to end the season. We've heard this about our teams. Do you take it with a grain of salt? Or do you hear Tim Kirkjian say it and say, oh, all right, that's what I like to hear?
So it's funny, just one with the team. Obviously, I think if you talk about postseason success, you talk about talent that they have. I think you have to have them with just about anyone in the league right now. And over the last 2 years, and this is a league of what have you done for me lately? And what have the Phillies done lately? Well, the Braves have gone home the last 2 years because of the Phillies, and the Dodgers haven't. They can go out and spend, but they haven't been able to really, this has been a theme of them, not just the last 2 years. It's been a theme of them outside of the 2020 run where what do they do in the postseason?
They're the Sixers of the postseason, not counting the World Series.
Yeah, of course. And that's hard to take away. But really, it's tough to win. And they've shown you that it's tough to win the postseason. They've had their struggles in it. And again, that doesn't let the Phillies off the hook for what they did last postseason. But the feel of the clubhouse, it's interesting describing it as a college feel. Because I pointed this out actually on Twitter the other night, and it was Matt Strom talking about the extension. And he was talking about, the idea of potentially not being in this clubhouse felt idiotic for him to take the risk of leaving that clubhouse.
Wow.
And I understand that, like, we can consistently, overrate, like, they just all love each other. It's all, like, fun in there.
Hey, the Eagles were that way 2 years ago, right?
Right. Like, we can overrate, culture and vibes, but it's pretty cool to see what they've built because it's quite clear that group in there has something strong going. And I really don't think we talk enough. And it's funny, I wrote this down when you were talking with Tom McCarthy. Kyle Schwarber and the leader he is. I don't think we talk enough about. We spent so much time talking about him lead off, home runs. We'll talk about all that stuff. I think we underrate him as a leader.
He seems just like a normal dude that is a leader because of that. I think he has a normal personality. I look at him and Real Muto as the same. Both guys that play different sports. In Kyle Schwarber, you have a guy that, and look, this is how I think about personalities and leaders. Like he was an on-stage guy in high school. He was in plays. He was in a singing group. He performed. My point being, generations change and all that, but my point being, having kids and when I grew up and Ray, your age and all, you were a stud athlete. You weren't singing on a stage an awful lot. That's different. That's comfort in your body, in yourself, in all of that. A great story was written about him about that a couple years ago, where it was just like, yeah, that's what I did. That's what we did. It was cool. We traveled all around and we were in competitions and stuff like that. And you're looking at this like Hulk of a guy who swats 45 homers a year, and you're like, really? You're dressing up in like purple sequins and you're kind of bragging about it? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. I love that. I absolutely love that. He's his own guy. And I think that's where his leadership comes from, that people see that. JT Real Muto, state champion football player, unbelievable wrestler, a guy that comes in, a man of few words, it seems like, in front of the public, but just keeps his mouth shut and gets the job done. That is the kind of athlete, if I was a follower, I would follow on my team. That's just what I like. And that's the only way you can be a leader, is by somebody wanting to follow you, somebody looking up to you. There's probably plenty of people that are like, yeah, okay, he can do what he has to. I have to worry about myself. But I agree with you on that, Ray, that I think they do have good leaders. Now, you can go the other way and say, well, yeah, it's easy to have a fun clubhouse when you've done all the partying they've done over the last couple years, where they had 3 clinchers 2 years ago, a couple clinchers last year. Yeah, they got the song going, the champagne flowing, the beers flying. Yeah, how hard is that, to want to stay? It's probably not. But it's there. It's there now, and the Eagles appeared to have it a couple years ago, and then it was all questioned in the last 7 games of last year.
Right, and I guess the reason I kind of point to Kyle Schwarber is just look at where he's been, and what we've seen about them. Like that Red Sox team he's on. Now they don't end up finishing the job and what they do, but there was it seemed like that group had a lot of fun. You look back at the Cubs and that type of group, like early on in that, and before it became the ramped up pressure of what they were, and they kind of tapered off. It seemed like they had a lot of fun. It seems like he's just been at the forefront of a lot of groups that seem to really gel and work with one another. So that's why I keep kind of coming back to him as like, I don't know if he was and it's also helps when he's the addition the seasons when they go about doing it. He comes in before 2022 and it's like, okay, what's geared up here? What's different about this group? What's really gelled and put this group together? It seems like someone like him has been a big piece of putting, and because he's also the piece that makes the most sense of being the one that would be actually vocal out there and maybe not necessarily yelling in people's faces, but hey, if there's someone to turn to in that locker room, it seems like he'd be that guy.
And I'll tell you what, and this is what I talk about leadership, and I've had a long thing with it. I think one of the things he did that showed him to be likable and a leader in a bigger way than just by his team was when Angel Hernandez made the horrible call against them when they were playing against the Padres, right? And Schwarber drops the bat and he's like, dude, are you kidding me? And he gets very animated saying, you're calling strikes over here, you're calling strikes over there. And then he said, you're doing it to them, and he points to the Padres, and you're doing it to us. He went out there and said, we don't know how to play baseball because we don't know what you're calling out here. It wasn't so much that he was arguing for himself. He was arguing for the game. And it was pretty cool. I'm not about showing up anybody, and people that know me, you know that. Like, I'm not calling for that. But it was the right time. It was the right place. He lost his crap, but he did it in a way that lends to exactly what you're saying, I think, Ray, where he was doing it for both teams. He was doing it for the betterment of the game. He was doing it because the fans were getting a worse product because players didn't know what they should and should not swing at. So that's one thing that stood in my mind with him also.
Yeah, and I just went back. I was looking for it while we were getting this conversation. It was a story from 2022 from Alex Coffey about them celebrating in June of 2022 about their wins. And it was, they started the post-game toast. And it's a very small thing, but, they were like, oh, winning shouldn't feel monotonous. This should be fun. We should make this enjoyable. And, you think about the way the clubhouse was run under Joe Girardi and how tight everyone seemed to be with him. And then, obviously, with Thompson, that June 2022 becomes something special. And it seemed like that is a moment where Schwarber kind of rose up to leadership in that moment, along with Harper. I think Gibson was also in there, but Schwarber's been the one that's been available the most. Gibson, you're not really following by example. You're following because maybe he's a louder veteran voice. And I know people in Baltimore that cover the Orioles said he was great for the pitchers down there last year, so it's nothing against Kyle Gibson. But Kyle Schwarber's been the one that's kind of in front of everyone the most. He's been available the most of any player over the last 2 seasons. He seems to have a strong, captivating voice in that room. And I think, to me, that college feel that you describe, I think comes from strong leadership in the strong clubhouse, and I think that comes back to Schwarber.
Yeah, and Rob Thompson has a big hand on it also. It's a good mix of personalities, I'll say right now because they're winning, but I think it's just a good mix of personalities anyway. All right, another thing that Tim Kurkjian had to talk about was the starting 3 of the Phillies pitching staff in Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and Ranger Suarez.
Ranger Suarez is a very good major league pitcher who's only going to get better from here. Brad Miller, former Philly, told me last postseason, he said the one pitcher that everyone needs to keep their eye on moving forward, even though we already know him, is Ranger Suarez. That guy has a chance to be not good, but great. So we'll see where that's their top 3. Now, Taijuan Walker's down. That's not a good sign. I wouldn't be shocked if they went and found another pitcher somewhere. But I like their 1, 2, 3. I think it can match up with almost any 1, 2, 3 in the National League.
Love to hear that. I think Ranger Suarez is one of the he's the popular guy that people will point to on the field. Like, who are you looking for a breakout season? I think he's become the favorite in that, certainly among the pitching staff. Wheeler, Nola, they can have really great years. They've done it before. We kind of expect it out of them. It's not going to be a surprise or a breakout. I don't think anybody in the bullpen is that way either. As far as hitters, breakouts, I mean, we have all these over-unders that we're going to go over in a little bit. I don't think so. I think Ranger Suarez is the guy. And when you become that, who's the guy that you think's going to do this? You're always looking for somebody out of the box. But I think he is the most popular choice to have a breakout season for these Phillies this year.
Which is a wild thing because breakout to me is finding something new. I think we know what he is. I think he is.
But we know what he can be.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe that's where I'm at. I already see him as being a part of that top 3 and being part of, one of the, maybe for the rest of baseball, it's like a reminder of, hey, this is who that guy is. I'll always go back to that moment when I heard Mr. Rager, his walk-in music, coming over in Game 5 against the Padres. And when he was coming to the game, my instant thought was, oh, this game's over. He's going to close this one out. I guess I've had the kind of unwavering confidence in Ranger for a while, so maybe to me the word breakout doesn't exactly hit the same way, but maybe for the rest of baseball, a full season where he puts together, something in the low 3s. I think he was mid-3s in 2022 in terms of ERA. In the low 3s as a starting pitcher, because I think he had, the 1-something ERA when he was the mix to the starter reliever back in 2021.
Yep.
So I think if we get, the full season of a low 3, high 2 ERA, maybe that's a breakout for the rest of Major League Baseball. But if you don't already appreciate what you have here in Philadelphia and Ranger Suarez, I would urge you to start appreciating it very soon.
Yeah, I don't know if it's non-appreciation. I think it's when we say breakout or when Kurkjian describes him as a great number 3 starter and maybe have a breakout season, I think it's like a Nola Wheeler type season where you're starting 32 games, where your ERA is hovering at 3.5 or below, where you're consistently there every game and eating up innings. He hasn't done any of that yet. Like, he's had flashes. He showed, and you bring up the 21 season, he pitched in 39 games, started 12 of them, had a 1.36 ERA. The next year he started 29 games, had a 3.65 ERA, which I'm absolutely fine with, 10-7 record. So 2022 is probably the biggest selling point on him you have. So you're right. Like, if you get that kind of a season, a 10-7 record, 29 starts, a 3.65 ERA, 129 strikeouts. If you get that, you're happy, so you can't call it breakout. I don't know if we're talking about.
I think maybe people, I think especially last year with the way, him being late to start, and I think his start, mirrored a lot of, his counterparts in the rotation, where June was really where it figured out for him. Like, he kind of made June, July, that was where he really started to figure it out last season. So maybe some people early in the season, he was in the rotation, then he came back and he wasn't, dominant. He wasn't the dominant force that you expected. And you look at the numbers from last season, you're like, oh, eh. And some people that maybe honestly just tuned in for the postseason remember him being pulled so early in the game against the Braves. And it's like, oh, why is that the case? So maybe for some people it's like kind of perception becomes your reality, but I think he's been there for a while. And I think that's a big piece when we talk about improvement for this season. The top three of your rotation, the beginning of the season, Wheeler wasn't where he was. Like, I think his ERA was over 4 in the first half of the year. Like, that is going to be different this year.
Yeah.
You expect that to be different this year. Nola had the season he had. We had the debates about Nola every single day for the entire summer, pretty much. I don't expect that to be the case. And Ranger Suarez is starting the season healthy and in your rotation. That's a massive difference from what last year was.
Yeah.
And that was a team that won 90 games and was on the doorstep getting to a World Series.
We're doing all the comparisons last year to this year, and this year is winning heavily. All right, the last thing I want to hear from Tim Kirchin from this morning is he's talking about what a beast your new first baseman may be.
I think the league should be looking at him with great fear because he's learned again how to play the position. Granted, he was a catcher at one point. If you've been a catcher and you're athletic, you can move to the outfield and move to first base. I'm surprised how good he's been over there. And most important, and this is obvious, he's healthy now. He's not coming back from an injury to start the 2023 season. It took him a while to figure it out. He doesn't need to figure it out anymore. He's playing first base. He's healthy. He's sitting in the middle of the order, and he's going to have a tremendous season.
There it is. Tremendous season. That sounds MVP-like to me, coming from Tim Kirchin. And you're going to get a better Bryce Harper than you had last year. I thought it was amazing how we saw him get better as he played, meaning physically. He was at like 6-7 home runs. We were doing the over-under for the year at 12.5 on the morning show. Wound up with like 19. Just increasingly found his power again as that elbow got better. And I don't know. I just think he's in for, and it sounds like Tim Kirchin sounds like he may be in for an MVP type season, which is cool. So all good news here as we get ready for the Phillies. Thursday maybe. Looks like it'll probably be Friday for the opening day, which I'm all for. I'd rather have sunny and windy than having to dodge the raindrops. So we'll see. Don't forget, 1 o'clock, Jimmy Lynam's going to join us. We'll talk about the Sixers, a little Joel Embiid. I can't wait to get into it with him about, did this team improve at all while Joel Embiid was out? Because there's cases to be made maybe on both sides of that ledger. This is Midday Show. Bob Cooney here at 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update. with Bob Cooney. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Welcome back. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. Just took a look out the window, Ray. It doesn't look too bad out there, but the rain, it's a-coming, so get ready for that. Tuesday, just trying to get through the worst day of the week. That's what we do, so we hope to make it a little brighter for you here on the midday.
Breaking sports news from 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Eagles related.
Interesting.
Yeah, Eagles related news. And again, this is not player necessarily related, but related to how you're going to watch your Eagles opener, because the NFL has announced that the Eagles opener is going to be on Peacock.
Oh, you got to be kidding me. Really?
I
don't know why I have
what
that
we're getting
reaction.
Here. Mike Garf. Oh, no, I had the same reaction. I actually can't say my reaction. Kevin Cooney had texted this over to me, and I don't want to respond what I texted back because I want my job. But I am not thrilled about this. But McLean and now McLean's not saying this. Mike Garafolo also said this. So the season opener in Brazil will air on Peacock.
I think we have. I don't even know. I'm sure we have it, I guess. I don't know. Do you have Peacock?
I'm sure I'm going to find a friend that has
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I have so many kids that we're constantly calling different ones for accounts for different things and all that.
What's the password here?
Yeah, exactly.
Am I allowed to open up this account in this household because they've got my location, which is definitely not something I love. But
who's Peacock tied into it? NBC or NBC?
Yeah, NBC.
So what team are we going to get for that game? Are we getting like?
No, I mean, I don't think it has anything. I don't think.
No, I mean announcing team.
Oh. Who is the announcing team for the Peacock?
I don't know. But
whatever.
usually their cameras are pretty good.
I'm sure
when you
it'll be
watch
fine.
games on there, like it's really, really sharp. Apple TV games are really sharp. The camera is, but man, nothing stays the same anymore, Ray. Why are they doing this to us?
I'm just more annoyed.
What are you looking up? You were looking up something.
Yeah, I was looking up to see what the crew was.
Oh, okay.
To see what we did. But I'm just more annoyed at the Friday night again. I really hate the Friday night opener.
Yeah.
So much.
Not a huge
So
fan.
honestly, the whole Peacock thing, like I get it. Everything's gonna be behind a streaming wall at some point. And I am the oldest 23-year-old in the world. How dare they put this on streaming? I'm gonna be able to find it. I'm gonna be able to pay for it. I have forgotten to cancel my different streaming account that I bought for something else football related. So, I think I'm just frustrated that it being on Friday, that the Peacock thing just makes me more and more upset. I'm cool with being in Brazil. I have no problem taking the game international, the whole thing.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Have at it. I'm not really upset. I know, if you're a season ticket holder, you thought this season you're getting 9 home games, you only get 8. I understand disappointment there. But I don't have any problem with them losing a home game, taking it international. I've been one that said 8 home games, 8 away games, and give us a game on a different site just to bring it somewhere unique. I like that idea better. But I'm just more annoyed by a Friday night opener. And now the Peacock thing just kind of throws on top of that.
All right. So you have a very good, active social life. I love that you meet with a friend every Monday night. Weird night out of the week. You meet every Monday night to get hang out.
Yeah, we like how quiet it is where we meet.
Yeah. Yes, and I appreciate you. And you said, I wasn't feeling 100%, but it didn't stop me from going and hanging out with your friend last night. So that's awesome. But I think one thing we haven't really thought that much of, but I have, it's a Friday night opening game of the NFL. A Friday night. We've never, ever had this before. It's going to be the end of the summer. We're going to have a Friday night to get together with friends. I've already planned it all out. Everything but putting out the meal that I'm going to serve. But I got my group of boys from high school. I'm telling them and their families to come on over. We're going to have the big TV out back, and we're all going to be sitting and lounging around the pool, and maybe sitting in the pool watching NFL football game. I am looking so far. It's probably, Ray, going to be 6 o'clock game, I would think. They're 2 hours ahead of us there in Brazil. So they're not going to go 9 o'clock there for 7 o'clock here, I wouldn't think.
No, I wouldn't think. I don't know. I'm still not really. I understand the idea of it. I think the idea of getting people together at 6 o'clock on a Friday night to try and make it all happen is going to end up being more of a headache and trying to do something in the city is probably going to be a bit of a headache for me. So,
Nah. Oh, for you. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
for me. So,
Well, you come over to my house.
all right, sounds
Yeah,
good. Well,
you
now I'll
come
start
over
looking
and
forward
hang
to
out
it.
by the pool and watch the game out back.
Now, I want to add to this because I know we might stir the people of being upset about this. It has been added to this and has been pointed out to me by Kevin Cooney and was just sent to us also that this will air locally on NBC. So,
Oh, okay.
we're cool. We're cool
Well,
on that one.
we buried the lead there, didn't
Well,
we?
I didn't. We did bury the lead on that
Yeah.
one. That's on me.
Only because we didn't know the lead.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. So
my apologies for not being too deep into the broadcasting rights deal of
yeah,
the
so
NFL.
everybody 55 and up has just breathed a heavy sigh of relief, like, phew, I never even heard of what Peacock was. I remember listening to the best show ever one day, and I think the Phillies were going to be on what every once in a while they're on something, like say Apple TV, and this older gentleman called in and like literally was asking Ricky and Tyrone, yeah, how do I get that? Like, what do I do? And Tyrone's like, look, they'll probably have a special. You can get it free. But where do I go? Like, what do I do to get it for free? And he's like, well, do you have a smart TV? I don't know. It just plays. It was so funny. Like, I felt bad for the guys. They were trying to help this guy out over the airwaves, which was hysterical.
One of my things of answering phones here, just at night, either when they would play a Best Show Ever re-air and they would think that the Best Show Ever is live, which was always fun to be like, no, that the show is re-airing right now. You're calling into the wrong show. If you had called a couple hours ago, you would have been we would have got you right on. Or when I think when the Phillies have a night game and people can't find it, is the calls to the station because they're just like, oh yeah, they'll know where it is.
Yeah.
It's like I'm trying to produce a show. I can't quite walk you through how to download that to your TV or get that on your computer in the next 60 seconds before I have to help out with the rest of the show.
I had we were at our local PJ Wellahan's one night down by my old house, my wife and I, and Daily News Live was on. A replay of it was on, the TV, some of the TVs at the place. And the waitress comes over like kind of sheepishly and she goes, you look just like that guy that's up there on TV right now.
No way.
And I was like, well, yeah, that's me. And she's like, oh, okay. And turns around and walks away like, you're an idiot. And I just left it at that. So what are you going to do? All right, Ray, I'm in a good mood now because it's 12:38 on a Tuesday afternoon. You know what I'm going to do because of it?
Give away some knockout
I am
tickets?
giving away a couple of pair of knockout tickets to the seventh caller, 215-263-0975. 215-263-0975. You get 2 tickets to tomorrow night's Sixers-Clippers game. Game starts at 7:30. After the game, you'll be able to go down on the court with us and play knockout on the floor where the Sixers and the Clippers just competed. It is an awesome night. Try to get in on it. It's all presented by Ferguson HVAC, your Delaware Valley Train Heating and Air Conditioning distributor. Visit TRANE.com to find a dealer near you. So seventh caller there gets a pair of tickets. We just give them out willy-nilly. Looking forward to tomorrow night. It's a big game, and we're going to talk to Jimmy Lynam at 1 o'clock about this Sixers team and where they are. We had some great insight yesterday from Amy Fadul. So looking to ask Jimmy about this team, like what is the makeup of it? And he's been around a lot of teams where, hey, he was on a team where he had Charles Barkley one day and the next day he didn't. So there's different ways that you handle different situations as far as being a coach. And I'm interested to what he thinks about how things have gone so far for Nick Nurse and where they are moving forward with this team. All right, Ray, the first over-under I'm going to throw out there for your Philadelphia Phillies this season. And I think I told you this. I had a buddy of mine call me the other day, and I picked up the phone. Doesn't even say hello, nothing. 89.5 over-under. And I knew what he was talking, and that's how the conversation begins. He got 89.5 down at the old turf club or whatever like a week ago, which is a really low number on the Phillies. I'm going to give you the number 92.5. Are you taking the over-under?
Jerk.
Why am I a jerk?
Oh, that's just a good line. It was just a very good line by you right there. I was hoping you were going to go 91.5, and I was going to be confidently, because I think they're right in that 92, 93. So I will say, you know what? Because I'm so confident, I have given you all of the optimistic reasons to feel good about them, and I don't think they get off to such a slow start as they have in years past.
I love that they've addressed it.
With the over.
Really good man. I like it. Now, Tyrone on his show yesterday, and I agreed with him. As I kept listening to him, I was going to pick up my son, and I'm listening to him, and I'm thinking, he's making a great case here. It's not out of the possibility, and you shouldn't feel bad if you say, hey, this team could win 100 games. They could. I mean, Tim Kirchin was just on here saying that their top 3 pitchers can match up with anybody. He basically said that, I don't want to say the favorite, that Bryce Harper is going to be a very strong MVP candidate. He said that, we didn't play this, that Citizens Bank Park is the toughest place to play for an opposing team. All of that, tough place to play. You get into a playoff series and your top 3 pitchers are among the best. That bodes pretty well for you. So I am looking for the over. I put it at 92.5. I make up a lot of these numbers, all of them, off the top of my head. And I was doing it to my friend the other day, and he's like, man, wherever you're getting these numbers from, they're pretty good. And I said, seriously? And he's very into. I said, I swear to God, I'm making them up. I was driving, and I had my, I was talking to him on speakerphone. I said, I am just making these numbers up. So I have a lot of numbers here that I'm going to put out to you guys if you want to chime in on them, 610-632-0975. We have a couple people that we want to get to on the text board. You can text us that way also. So when we get back, we'll get to that before 1 o'clock when we talk to Jimmy Lynam. This is Middays with Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic.
The insight on baseball you need to hear. Jason Stark joins the best show ever Wednesday at 4:25.
I just had a visitor to my island. I told you before, my island is that I think for some insane reason in my head, Hassan Reddick is coming back to the Philadelphia Eagles. That's what I believe for some unknown reason. And the door swung open, and in popped Jen Scordo. And she said, you are not on an island. For some strange reason, I believe it also. No rhyme or reason, no facts behind it. Most likely I'm wrong, but I don't know. I think Howie's going to work some wizardry to get him back here. Ray, chances of that in your mind are?
3%.
Thank you, buddy.
3%. Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, I appreciate
we made a pact to each other to have each other's back while we're doing this endeavor, and apparently it lasted all of 6 days with you.
Whoa. I have your back. I'm not going to say that I'm going to unequivocally agree with you. Now, I think that's two different things. I have your back in letting you sit on your island, now being joined by Jen. So on both of your islands, you guys can sit there, and I hope, honestly, you guys are, setting fireworks off at the island. You guys are correct.
We're taking our Wilson ball and we're getting away.
I hope that you guys are right.
Screw you guys. We believe what we believe.
I would like to be wrong, okay? I would like to see Hassan Reddick in an Eagles uniform. But the way this goes and just the way I get the feeling about Howie and the way he looks at that front, I don't think Reddick's here.
Yeah, it might not be. But we're holding out hope. And for some reason, we have a reason to believe. All right, 610-632-0975. That's where you can reach us here. I have some over-unders I want to give out to you. And, Ray, it's also our text board. You say that we have a question about the Phillies from somebody?
Yes, Rich from Hatton Heights wants to check in. Are we not concerned about how the Phillies bats go cold at the worst times? For example, we got no hit by the Astros in the World Series and then did nothing the next 2 games. And obviously what happened on the bats against the Diamondbacks. I'm just concerned about that happening again.
Yeah, and it's a great point by Rich, because I always say that things in sports are contagious and never anywhere more than in baseball. I really believe that. And I don't know if it's because you're playing it every day. Hitting's contagious. Not hitting could be contagious. Good fielding contagious. All of those things. He makes a great point. Is it in their heads? Big game. Choked. I don't want to say choked. Got no hit one year and fell apart the next year. And it wasn't just one guy. It wasn't just you had a plethora of players that just didn't come through for you last year. Fair question. I'd hate to say it's their makeup, but there's more evidence than not over the last couple of years.
It's a fair question. I think it's something that when we look at what they did in spring training, them trying to address them chasing how they're seeing baseballs. I know the whole thing of, now they're not throwing, BP with just strikes. You have to be able to assess what you're seeing. I don't know if it's going to pay dividend. What you do in March in spring training, might get lost in you by the time you end up in October in that big moment. But I think approach is a big thing that this season I'm very curious coming out of the gate, the approach and the way they look differently maybe at the plate than you saw, certainly against the Diamondbacks, but overall as a group from year to year.
And I mentioned it earlier, and it's worth mentioning, although we don't like to, but here's the bats that are coming up from down south to start the season on Thursday or Friday. In spring training, Nick Castellanos, 119. Kyle Schwarber, 132. Bryce Harper, 179. JT Realmuto, 213. Does it mean something? Doesn't it? You're getting your work down there. The one thing I look at those guys that screams off of those numbers I read, they're veterans. Those are guys going down there, getting their work done, getting themselves ready for the season. Batting averages, it's not that important to them. Yes, I would love to see all of them hitting 280 and above, but it's just not the case right now. But like I said, those are veterans. I'm okay with it. For now, I'm okay with it. It'll be okay. I don't think we're going to see prolonged slumps from 4 of your veteran hitters coming right out the bat simply because of what went down in spring training. Trey Turner, I think, might have had one of your best averages of the regulars. He was at 283 for spring training. So we'll see how it translates. All right, Ray, it's time to look at some numbers. All right, you ready to do this?
I'm ready to do this.
I am very much a numbers guy. I have friends that are way better and far more into numbers than I am, but we like to play these games every once in a while. So we'll start it with you today, Ray. I already gave you one. You took the Phillies over 92.5 wins. Kyle Schwarber, 42.5 home runs.
Over.
Oh, you say that. Now you have to factor in. He's been healthy, all those things, so you're factoring another good, healthy season for him. Bryson Stott, 285 average. He was 282 last year.
Right. Yeah. Slight under.
Ooh, no trust. You hate Bryson Stott.
Yep, that's it. Write it. Put it in the press.
All right, Alec Boehm, I have 20 home runs.
20 home runs. Oh, God. I'm going to take the over, but I feel like an optimist.
I take the over on that also.
Yeah.
97 RBI, which is what he had last year.
Slightly under.
It's weird. I went over home runs, under an RBI also. JT Real Muto, 20 home runs.
Under.
I took the over on that.
Okay.
I think he's going to – I don't think his average is going to be in the 260s. I think it's probably going to be in the 250s again, but I think he's going to have a little bit more pop. So I took the over there. Brandon Marsh hit 277 last year. That surprised me when I looked that up earlier this week. I'm going to put him at 280 over-under.
Under.
I think he's a better hitter than he was last year. I'm going to go over.
The one that's right now sticking with me the most is I think I want to change the Stott one to an over.
Nope, you don't get to change
All
somebody
right,
in the
sounds good.
Yeah, I already put it there. Nick Castellanos, combined home runs and RBIs over 63.
RBIs?
I'm sorry, home runs and doubles.
63.
Over 63. He went 29 and 37 last year.
Under.
Okay. 272 batting average for Nick Castellanos.
Over. Just barely.
Okay. Bryce Harper, 30 home runs.
Over.
Wow. Quickly.
Yeah.
Bryce Harper, 115 RBIs.
Over.
Ranger Suarez, 3.55 ERA.
Under.
Wow. That was quick. All right. And last but not least, on this first section of our over-unders, Junior Marte, over-under 3 ERA.
Under.
Yes. He
Give
is
me a
the
two. Give me a
adopted
two.
son of this show, Junior Marte. So every time we have to figure out some kind of a celebration we could have whenever he gets into a game and gets an out or something like that. The next day we got to come in and certainly celebrate. All right, well, we're going to be celebrating at 1 o'clock. We have Jimmy Lynam joining us to talk all Sixers. After that, Nick Sirianni also talked today. We'll give you a little bit of a recap of what he had to say because he didn't really say all that much. And maybe we'll look a little bit more into what Howie Roseman had to say yesterday as they're down in Orlando for NFL meetings and stuff like that. So, Jimmy Lynam coming up at 1 o'clock. This is the Midday Show. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Philadelphia's new morning sports show. Weekday mornings, 6 to 10, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. WPEN and WPEN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia. A Beasley Media Group station. Broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios. Powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. This is Philadelphia's sports station for breaking news. Now, more with Bob Cooney. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Thanks for coming back here with us. Middays, a little bit after 1 o'clock on this Tuesday, as we inch closer and closer and closer to the opening of Major League Baseball, to the playoffs for the Flyers, for the playoffs for the Sixers. And speaking of the Sixers, let's go to probably the biggest expert in this city that we have on basketball, one Jim Lynam. Jimmy, good to hear from you today. How you doing?
Bob Cooney, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Everything going well with you?
Sure is. Congratulations on your new show.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, buddy. Have you polished off the golf clubs? I know you were away doing some golfing. Are you back up here and ready to start hitting the courses around here?
I played down the shore yesterday with my 2 grandsons.
Nice. Very good. Can't beat that. All right, Jimmy, the one thing I wanted to ask you about this Sixers team right now is the obvious headline is what happened to Joel Embiid and everything since then. But what have you learned from this group since Embiid has been out with the injury? Because when it happened, that was one of my biggest things, that I wanted to be able to learn something, maybe from individuals, maybe from the group, for if he came back, you could add it to it.
Yeah, real good question. To state the obvious first, what have I learned? I've learned you can't win without Joel Embiid. They're 13-25 without him. You're losing twice as often as you win, and with them, they were 26-8.
Yeah.
That if you use that math and over an 82-game season, that's going to be 60-plus wins, probably 62 or 3. So and no surprise, Bob, that's how special the top dogs are. You take Luka Doncic off Dallas. You take with LeBron and Anthony Davis, the Lakers are having trouble finishing over 500. Picture this, if you took one of those guys off that team, they would lose more than they win.
Yeah.
So that's how vital the top players are. But to your general question, what have we learned? I think Nick Nurse really has done a good job with these guys, making them competitive without Joel, and start with that. And I think specifically, Maxey said, who's very insightful when he speaks anytime, but particularly post-game. And a couple games back, he mentioned that after the Knicks loss, which is a couple weeks back, he said the Coach Nurse kind of lit into them a bit, that they simply weren't playing the way you have to play with a guy like Embiid out, that you got to crank it up, and specifically at the defensive end. So I would agree with Nick Nurse. They've made strides defensively, and if they can carry that over and you do get Joe back, I think that bodes well going forward.
And it's a totally different team than when he went out. I reference this all the time, Jimmy, that I was down there for a game before Embiid got hurt, and they were relatively healthy, and Oubre was back from his injury, and Nick Nurse was juggling with, do I start Oubre or do I start DeAnthony Melton? I kind of like where that is. Now everything's kind of changed with Kyle Lowry and Buddy Hield and all. You've been in this situation. What's it like to have to change, where a team changes in the middle of the season and you have to coach them all differently again?
Yeah, well, that's part of the deal. Nick Nurse he's been around the block, and particularly before Nurse hit the NBA. He coached a long time and, quote, the equivalent of minor leagues, G League, for instance. And, those rosters are forever changing. So he has a lot of experience of dealing with specifically what you refer to. And I think that's been very, very helpful. And obviously, he and his coaching staff, they've been able to formulate some ideas going forward that when Embiid does return, number one, I think they have very good depth. I'd like to see DeAnthony Melton back. Who knows if he's going to be healthy enough or not. But the names that you cite, whether it's Kyle Lowry, Buddy Hield, I like the depth of this team. I think this is a fair statement, Bob, that if Embiid comes back and is healthy for the playoffs, this will be the best group he's ever played with starting a playoff. I think that's true.
And one of those people is Kyle Lowry. And when I sat down and talked to Nick Nurse last week about that, I said, did you anticipate him coming in here and having to be this? And he said, no, but he is that, and that being the 30-plus minute a night guy. Is he suited to do that in your mind, Jimmy, moving forward? And does he have to do that with this team moving forward?
Yeah, to your first question, I'm not sure if he's suited. In other words, you want him. He's got a lot of game left, obviously. And for him to show that game on a consistent basis, yeah, I would just be somewhat skeptical if he could do it playing 30 minutes. Off the top of my head, maybe more like 24, maybe a given game 30. But I think if you had a little lower with minutes, then I think the real Kyle is likely there for you. And I'll have to be honest, Bob, when they acquired him, I ran to the numbers, and I was pleasantly surprised. And I was talking to my wife here, who follows this stuff pretty closely, and I said, I read, she was surprised that I was surprised. And I said, no, I didn't realize his numbers are rock solid still, and nobody has to convince us of how good a player and competitor Kyle is and what he can mean to a team. So, no, he's going to be a vital cog in the playoffs.
Is he the type of guy, Jimmy, that you could bring off the bench? Somebody called yesterday and said that he was a really big fan of Cam Payne and that he could be your starting point guard, and then maybe you bring a Kyle Lowry off the bench. I don't know if I could see Kyle Lowry with a second unit. Could you?
Oh yeah, no, it's he's the type of player you can plug him in wherever. He hits the floor running. He just says, what time's the game, independent of whether that was Cardinal, Doherty, Villanova, or the Boston Celtics.
Right.
Let's ball.
So with this Joel Embiid thing, I'm not going to ask you where do you think he is, all of those things. But in your experience, we've heard the term a lot, and we talked to Ramona Shelburne last week, and she brought this up, of the ramping up period, getting him ready. What, in your mind or in your knowledge, what does that entail with a player in the NBA?
Well, it varies from guy to guy, Bob, to be quite frank. And I think, Embiid, obviously, he's a beyond special physical specimen. So I think once he gets the go-ahead, I think it's a real good sign just that he's on the court. At the building, not one of these past home games, he was shooting the ball, albeit in dress clothes, just kind of fooling around. But those are all positive signs. If that leg were still bothering him a lot, you wouldn't see him in those type situations. So, having said that, I think you're going to see him. My guess early, I'm going to take a shot here based on a few circumstances. Maybe the home Oak City game, which I think is like April 4th, if I'm not mistaken. But that would be your question about ramp it up. No, it's not ideal, but you heard Nick Nurse refer a couple times. Let's get them back healthy. And if that means resting them a few more games, then, so be it. You take the road of caution.
So if you talked about the depth that they have, and it might be the deepest team that they've had with Joel Embiid if he comes back healthy. With that, Jim, how good can this team be? Like, do you see a matchup? DeAnthony Melton's a great perimeter defender. Don't know if you're going to have him or not. They have other pieces there. Do they match up with the likes of the Celtics? Is that a realistic outlook?
Well, I can only go back to what I said at the top, Bob. They were 26-8 when they had Embiid, and they have a few more pieces now than they had back in that earlier stage. So I'm going to give you a yes, and I'll have no problem saying this. They had the Celtics last year. This is virtually, I say virtually, it's probably not fair. Drew Holiday is a tremendous addition to the Boston Celtics, in my opinion. But the fact of the matter is the Sixers had that series. It was a home game, Game 6, and, Jason Tatum didn't jump in the booth and put his cape on. the Sixers would have advanced to the next round.
They had it.
Your question, yeah, yes, of course they match with a reasonably healthy Embiid and this cast, and let me add, and Tyrese Maxey, who nobody has to convince anybody at this stage that he's a legitimate star, an all-star player in this league, and one of the most explosive scorers in the league, I might add. Knock last night, first quarter on the road, fourth game of a road trip on a back-to-back. He gives you 21 points in the first quarter. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you to put your GM hat on, Jimmy, just to look into the future a little bit. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime, that the Sixers will have Joel Embiid signed next year. They're going to re-sign Tyrese Maxey, and then it's kind of wide open. How do you handle that if you're
but I mean, yes, it's unusual, but probably by design. The Daryl Morey's of the world, it's not like they come into the office on Thursday and start figuring out what they're going to do Friday.
Right.
They plan this stuff out years ahead. So, no, they have tremendous flexibility, that they'll want to bring some of these key pieces that are on this team as free agents back. That's a probability. But it gives them a lot of flexibility in terms of going out and shopping the free agent market.
Is it more of a better place to be in your eyes, Jim, that you have two stars and you have kind of an empty canvas? Or is it a tougher place to be in that you have to do so much?
Depends what would be on the canvas, Bob.
Yeah, well, I mean, like
I have no problem being locked in, to like a third and a fourth guy if you really like them going forward in the future. If in fact you're in this position, I think, as I said, it gives you a lot of flexibility, and it's a nice place to start when you have Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, I will say that.
Yeah, that's not bad. All right, I want to hit you on up with two other sports. One, who do you have winning the NCAA men's tournament?
Well, Connecticut is the favorite. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But, could one of these other teams, I don't watch it religiously, when I tune in, off and on, and when I catch a real good game, I stay with it. But I think they're the best team in personnel, and I don't know Bob Hurley other than, say hello. Not Bob, help me.
Danny
Hurley, say hello here and there over the years. But I did know his dad very, very well. His dad's one of the best coaches, literally, in basketball.
Yeah, saw him coach many times in high school.
Yeah, I know you did. And he was, as a high school coach, sometimes you get asked the question, what's it like to coach in the NBA? Or I would say he, as a high school coach, and the other high school coach was Morgan Wooten, that, let him sit beside some NBA coach for a month and then give him the team. That's how good the dad was. And it looks like the son is following in his footsteps.
Yeah, they are fun to watch. I love that you can't tell who the opponent they are playing. They just come out and play the same all the time. Yeah, that's great. All right, last one here for you. A number came out this morning that our morning show, Kincade and Salciunas talked about. 9.5 is the over-under that's been put out for the Philadelphia Eagles in wins. What do you like?
9.5?
9.5.
Topside blindfolded.
Yeah? All right. There it is. The great Jimmy Lynam.
Tell somebody, anybody interested, come knocking on my door. Happy
You'll be ready for that one.
Yes, sir.
Jimmy, thanks so much. Appreciate you always coming on with us. You're the greatest, and I will see you shortly.
My pleasure, buddy. Anytime.
All right, thanks. The great Jimmy Lynam joining us there on the Comcast Business Hotline. Don't know what happened to the lines there, Ray, but it's funny. Jimmy, he and we talk basketball with each other so much that it's almost like I feel like not only is he answering my question, but he's questioning my question at times. And I love that. I tell everybody all the time, I am never above learning. Never, ever above learning the game of basketball, any game out there on the planet, anything in life. And Jimmy Lynam's a guy that I could just sit down to and walk away and say, all right, yep, learned something new again. But how about that? Loves the over of 9.5 on the Eagles. Jimmy's a big, big Eagles fan and follower.
I also came out 10. I saw 10.5 as well, and I think it was Jeff McClain this morning that was like I would take the under.
Was it 9.5? I thought they said 9.5 this morning. Somebody said 9.5.
Well, whatever it is, 11 wins.
It's kind of important.
Yeah, well, 10.5, 9.5, whatever it is of those two, 11 would be my. If we're doing our early predictions, I would like the over.
Yeah,
But I also feel like I'm blindly optimistic in that one. That's another one where I feel like I'm the same way I feel about the Alec Boehm over 20 home runs.
Yeah.
Is the same way I feel about betting the Eagles win over.
Well, it's funny. You know what has stuck in my mind about the Eagles whenever anything like this comes up, the numbers and how they're going to be and all of that, is what Brian Westbrook said to us on our opening show. And I asked him, well, what's the key? Can that stick with you the ending of last year? And he said, yeah, if you don't get off to a good start. And it was immediate that he said, yeah, you go out there and plays don't start working or you start doing this. It all comes flooding back in. For the players that were here last year, and A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, defensive side of the ball, if things start to go bad, it all floods back in again. It's really important for them to get off to a good start. And it appears that Brazil game on that Friday night, September 8th, maybe, something like that, it appears that the Cleveland Browns are going to be your opponent, if we are to believe one of the Cleveland Browns players misspeaking, I should say.
Yes.
He kind of let it leak. So I'm okay with that. A playoff team, a good defensive team, a strong test. I'm okay with that. If that's who the Eagles' opening opponent is, that's fine. No problems. Loved what Jimmy had to say and his insight in on the Sixers. You hear the optimism. It's not just with him, it's with everybody. They were 26-8 with Joel Embiid. They were on track to win, as Jimmy said, 60-plus games. That's a lot of games. A lot of games. That puts you as one of the best teams in the NBA. A vastly different team now because of what you have added, what you've subtracted, trade deadline, bringing in Kyle Lowry, all of those things. So it's going to be interesting how this plays out. Really, really tough game tomorrow night. Coming home, I've said this for years on here, never like the team coming back east off of a West Coast trip. Once in a while, if you get such an opponent, you'll be riding some kind of high that you throw out a performance. You're like, damn, where did that come from after a trip from the West Coast? You have the Clippers tomorrow night. That is a tough one, tough game, but it's going to be fun because we have knockout going on. We're going to be on the floor after the game. James Harden coming back. Patrick Beverly coming back. Is that who is Patrick? No, not Patrick Beverly. PJ Tucker. So video tributes galore. Maybe tomorrow night will be happening.
We want the PJ Tucker video tribute.
They're not going to do one without the other.
I know.
You can't do that. But
just for the drama.
Do you do it? Now, I should do some, maybe try to collect some intel and maybe run down the hallway tomorrow and ask a certain somebody, hey, any chance that you guys are doing a video tribute? I'll get the same answer I always do when I try to get secrets from Matt.
Oh,
I don't know. I'll find out tonight. No, yeah. I should ask Vasilati. I'm sure Matt's told him.
Just curious for you, when you're talking about coming off this West Coast trip, because, we could play this out from the Sixers side. Clippers also playing back-to-back Sunday, Monday, and flying out here. Where does the spot lie for them? Because we can talk about how tough this is for the Sixers. How tough do you see this being for the Clippers?
It's weird, and I knew that was coming up, and I think somebody even brought that up to me earlier, was I advantage Clippers. They're starting a road trip. I know it's similar, all of that, but first game of a road trip, I just feel like you have more energy after being home than you do coming home after a road trip. They're home. They were home for the last few days. The Sixers weren't. They were on the road. It's so tough, so tough. So I'm anxious to see what that line's going to be tomorrow night. I'm also I have to be honest. After talking to Jimmy, I think he picked a date and everything. He's got Joel Embiid coming back at home against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm pretty pumped about
that. Fired up about that.
Yeah,
I may or may not have tickets to that one.
Jimmy Lynam is as honest as the day is long. He is not giving away secrets. He doesn't have any intel. He's totally picking. Well, he has some intel, but he's totally just picking a date out there and saying what he feels. And man, Embiid might be coming back. Remember how much fun it was to watch the 76ers when Joel Embiid was playing this year, because I think a lot of us had forgotten it. And it was pretty cool. And one of the last games he played before he got hurt, he threw up a 70 spot with 15 rebounds. So let's hope we get that back soon. All right, when we get back, we're going to hit on what Nick Sirianni had to say this morning down at the NFL meetings in Orlando. I told you, and just being honest here, I'm not a big break down the what he had to say, especially at this time of year. Not now. This isn't, to me, Nick Sirianni time now. This is Howie Roseman time now. During the games is when I really want to hear from Nick Sirianni. But he said a couple of things that might make you shake your head, scratch your head, put your hands up in the air and say, yeah, what do I really care? But let's listen to it when we get back here. Midday shows, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Sirianni speak.
Welcome back, middays. 1:31 as we get closer to closing time here on the Midday Show. Before going over to Tyrone, Ricky, and Jen, a couple of things here that I wanted to hit on. Tomorrow, we're going to be out at the Rally House in Fairless Hills. It'll be me, Ray, that guy right there, and Bill Colarulo is going to be joining us also. So come on out and join us if you want there. Then at night, we got Knockout Tournament. So all of you people out there that have won tickets, tomorrow night is the night. I will warn you that Connor Thomas, producer of the morning show, has not stopped talking about it for weeks now, to the point of, like, none of us can stand being around him, walking around the hallway, shooting fake jump shots. Oh, nothing but twine, nothing but twine. So he's been annoying as hell. But that's tomorrow night. We're going to have a lot of fun. Thoughts and prayers to people down in Baltimore for that horrible accident that happened, I believe, in the middle of the night or really early in the morning, where a cargo ship ran into the Francis Scott Key Bridge down there, totally collapsing the bridge. I've heard that there's maybe 6 or 7 people missing, so hope to God they can be rescued. There were a couple of rescues. The one amazing thing of it is, if you watch the video, the bridge was actually more crowded just seconds before that boat hit, and it seemed to be kind of very light of car traffic on the bridge when it happened. So I have family down there. I hope to God everybody that you know that we know is okay, and prayers to those people that are struggling with that down there. I texted my sister down there. Everybody in my family, she just texted back. Sorry about that. She said their family's fine, but it's very, very sad down there. So thoughts and prayers out there. Also, look at the NFL just like making moves and hey, we got to be in the limelight. Don't forget about us. So we told you this morning there's been a change. The hip drop tackle, which I never even heard of before, like last year, but apparently it causes some injury. So you put your arms around the guy and you're trying to tackle him, but you can't get him down. So you put as much weight on him to tackle him as you can, or you take yourself off the ground. That's now illegal. So it's getting to the point that I said earlier. You put your hands on a guy, you stop him, you look at the ref, and you're like, can I do this? Can I do that? I think there was a Kevin Hart video where 2 guys like picked him up real softly and laid him on the ground and said, there you go, you're down. So that's been changed. No more hip drop tackle. If you don't know what that is, join the club. Kickoff rules have changed. If you want to, we could read them to you. Like, Ray, you're the best. Ray's sitting behind me this morning before we get on the show, and he says, kickoff rules have been changed. I said, oh, yeah? What's that? Well, and he talked for like a good minute and a half, and I think I know some things about football. I had no idea what the hell he was talking about. I finally just said, oh, it sounds like they want guys to return kicks more than they did in the past. And he said, yeah. But then I went on Twitter, and I encourage you to do this. Go on Adam Schefter's Twitter handle, and you'll see that he has a video of what kickoffs will now look like in the NFL. It's crazy. The kickoff team and the return team, the 10 guys on the field that aren't the kicker or the returner, are lined up about 5 yards away from each other, right? At about the 25, 30-yard line of the receiving team. Am I getting this right so far, Ray?
You're doing well.
Something like that. And then you kick the ball, and if it hits the ground or something like that, it goes somewhere, depending on where it lands. Or if once the guy catches the ball, then you can move, and then you can try to go tackle him.
Yeah.
So,
two sides are lined up in front of one another. 2 sides can't move until the ball is touched or hits the ground, depending where it hits. It's a whole thing. I could tell today when I was explaining it to you, I got like 2 sentences in, and I was like, this is not going to go
My
well.
left eye was circling counterclockwise, and my right eye was circling clockwise. Yeah, I was kind of dumbfounded at what you were.
Yes, landing zone. They're gonna have fun with that one. The graphics they build on the NFL broadcasts to explain that one to the general audience come September are gonna be a lot of fun.
You got to explain it to the guy returning kicks too, because every once in a while you'll see a guy will grab a kick and step out of bounds. You're like, oh my God, what the hell did you do that for? No, the rule is in this league that if he does that, they automatically get the ball out at the 25. Those guys, their heads are going to be spinning back there. If I'm a coach, it might just be if you can catch it and run, do that. Otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah, I would just say catch it and run. Just catch it and run.
We get it somewhere. Like you're explaining, oh, if it lands here, they get it at the 35. If it lands there, it comes out to the 20. If he, waves to his mom up into the stands with his right hand, they get it at the 30. But if it's his left hand, it's at the 15. I don't know. It's crazy. You got to look at Adam Schefter's account to see what it's going to look like. And now Adam Schefter just came out with another release. This is wild. 2 games in the NFL are going to be played on Wednesday, Christmas Day. Wednesday, Christmas Day. You know how great Thursday night football is, because you're not getting a whole bunch of guys going in. Now, I assume the teams that are playing then, hopefully they get the bye the week before or something.
They play Thursday night maybe the week before? I don't know.
Well, they can't both because then they'd be playing each other again. He got the Eagles-Giants playing on a Thursday night, and then the Eagles-Giants playing again on a Wednesday because they're
there's 2 games. I mean, you'd have to do.
Yeah, you'd have to do 2 games on a Thursday night.
I don't like it.
It's getting to the point.
Leave me alone, man. Leave me alone.
Yeah, I'm all right with basketball on Christmas. It's
I'm okay with my
NFL.
family on Christmas.
NFL, it's okay. You can allow another sport to own the day. Christmas Day is the day that the NBA owns. Let them have it. There's nothing wrong with it. Guess what? You're still loved by millions upon millions upon millions of people. And guess what? Your cash flow is still going to be billions upon billions upon billions. So, I don't know. They have to do it.
I'm going to end up watching. Let's not pretend like I'm not going to end up watching. But
yeah, but I do love the NBA on Christmas Day.
Nice. I enjoy it.
A lot of people used to say that's when the NBA season should start, on Christmas Day, and ride it out from there. Anyway, the NFL's making their noise, and this morning, Nick Sirianni, he was at the NFL meetings with media, sitting around, probably a few pancakes, cup of coffee in front of him, and he started to talk about your Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of the talk was about who's going to be running the offense, him or Kellen Moore. Is it going to be a lot of mix and match? I don't know. Sirianni didn't really say anything that's going to, be earth-shattering. But one of the things that I did find interesting that he said, and he was talking about his general manager, who is Howie Roseman. And he was talking about what a complete pleasure it is to be a coach when Howie Roseman is the GM.
I know this. Howie constantly works to improve this football team, and that's an unbelievable thing as a coach when your general manager in the front office is just willing to do anything to get the team better at all times. We always want to work hard. It makes you even want to work even harder for him because he's doing so much to help us out. So we know it's a long way away to being a finished product at the offensive line because we know where there's so much more time to add guys. And so as we sit right now, I like our guys. We have 4 guys back with major experience, and then a couple guys there that have played a lot of plays too. One coming off an injury, and then guys, some other depth pieces. So we'll see how that goes.
Before the happenings of free agency and whatever, I was really convinced that the Eagles would go with that first pick at 22, and because there's so many of them, good ones there, I thought they were going to go corner. I thought cornerback was the way they were going to go. Pick one up, might be even a guy that you plug in and play as a starter right away. I still list that as one of the favorites, but having lost Opeta, having lost Driscoll, having lost Jason Kelsey, I'm really starting to lean towards that maybe they might go to that offensive line. I threw this out there a couple of weeks ago. It might have even been before Opeta and Driscoll were gone, and I said, hey, if Howie's got an offensive lineman rated the highest, and it just so happens to be a center, any chance that they might do that and keep Juergens at guard? Howie didn't address that specifically, but here's what he had to say about the center position.
I don't have to make that decision for a long, long time. And so we'll see. We got walkthroughs to go through. We got training camp. We got OTAs as far as what that looks like. Cam's got a ton of reps. If it is Cam, he's got a ton of reps doing that too. And like Jason didn't take every snap at center last year in practice. So, I'm really confident that he can do it. We're really confident, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, see what happens. A lot of what he had to say, I thought what was interesting there is he said, if it is Cam. The assumption is Cam Juergens slides over. He's your starting center, and you're going with 2 new positions on the offensive line where Juergens is taking over center for the first time, and you're going to have to plug in a right guard for the first time. Is it easier? Is it easier if they look at the board and they say, well, there's a really good center out there that we think we could plug in right now, and then that way we don't have to change anything else? Is that the thinking? I don't know. We'll see come draft time. I'm starting to lean towards they're going to go offensive line in the first round as opposed to corner. It's not going to be sexy. Ray's shaking his head no right now. It wouldn't surprise me. I would make corner a slight favorite, but it wouldn't surprise me if they went offensive line. Why were you shaking your head? You just don't want it to happen?
Like, come on. Can we please? Can we just do something different? Can I not have to do the whole trenches thing again?
But
this
you've
year?
had good success through the years, right?
Yeah, we have. Come on, but I want the corner mostly because they need the corner. Also, it was funny. We were talking about this off the air yesterday while I was sitting here cutting up the promos for today's show. Tyrone and I were having the conversation about the fact so many of the mock drafts have them taking a corner. And it's interesting the people that are tapped into the league keep slotting them with a corner. And also, if you want to read a great mock draft, I'll interest you in Tyrone Johnson's mock draft 2.0.
2.0 yesterday.
97.5thefanatic.com.
Correct.
Go give it its clicks. Go scroll up and down all the way from pick 1 to pick 32, please. But while you're doing that, we're talking it, and I just want them to take the corner at this point. I just...
You want some Kool-Aid?
I'm sipping the Kool-Aid.
Yeah?
I'm sipping the Kool-Aid.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just have this Jackson Powers Johnson on my mind from Oregon. Center.
Yeah, I know you've got him on your mind. And that's very nice of you to have him on your mind.
Okay.
It'll be cool
But
to
they're not
watch him
gonna
with another team.
Yeah.
No, they might take him. I'm just not sitting here pining for an offensive lineman.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, when we get back, we're going to close it out here on the midday shows with me, Bob Cooney. Don't forget tomorrow, we're going to be out at Rally House. Fairless Hills. Love to see you come out. We've had a lot of people come out when we used to do the morning show there. Dave, caller in today, said he was going to stop by, friend of the shows. Come on out. It's a great, great store, huge, and we'll be out there to have some fun. It'll be me, Ray, Bill Colarulo. So when we get back, we'll put a wrap on it before you get to the best show ever here at 97.5 The Fanatic.
We are talking sports with you all day, every day. You can call our shows at 610-6
Closing out a Tuesday afternoon here on The Fanatic. Middays, Bob Cooney. Glad that you came with us today on this sports ride that we had. Tonight, Flyers at the Rangers. Might not be the best spot for the Flyers. I'm looking over the Rangers. They've won 7 out of their last 9, the Rangers have. One of the best teams in hockey at 47-20-4. Just a monster of a team as this grind of a schedule continues for the Flyers. But as I said earlier, if you were in earlier on the show, it does get easier for the Flyers. So you have the Rangers tonight. You're at Montreal, host Chicago. Then you have a big one against the Islanders. And then that's on Monday, home on Monday. And then at Buffalo, at Columbus, at Montreal. A lot of those teams besides the Islanders below you in the standings. Some of them not even in play, so their seasons are pretty much over. 10 more games left for the Flyers to continue on this playoff march. Excited to see, intrigued to see how John Tortorella handles this last part of the season. All right, Ray, our tech sport. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Speaking of the way he handles the rest of the season, I know you were intrigued by the Sandstrom thing. Did you see what came down earlier today?
I didn't. Did they let him go?
No, Tortorella apologized today about his answer on Sunday with regards to Sandstrom. He said his body language wasn't right and acknowledged it was a fair question. Know that Sandstrom has been working in a really tough spot with the
What does that
situation.
prove to you? He listens to our show.
I mean, that's probably it.
I mean, there's no other answer.
He's probably begging to be a guest. He's like, just have me on there. Just have me on.
Yeah, he said
he and I became very, very. I don't know if friends probably a strong word, but I became a media member that he enjoys conversing with at the carnival. I don't know if you'd ever describe a media member as a friend, so I don't want to go that far.
Did you throw softballs?
Yeah. We started with the dog. We started with talking dogs, obviously.
Now you're in.
Now, man, yeah.
Tortorella's a
Hockeys
big
and
dog
hounds.
lover. Yes.
He's a big dogsman.
Yeah. So interesting. Another part of him that you're trying to figure out. Benches the captain, bad mouths without saying a word, the backup goalie. Now comes back and apologizes to the goalie for acting that way. This is not getting interesting. It's been interesting. Going to be a fun 10-game stretch leading into what I believe and said weeks ago is going to be a playoff run here for the Flyers. So we have a texter that what did they say, Ray? You said somebody wanted to chime in that they didn't say bad words to you, did they?
No, they didn't say bad words to me. They just agreed with you. So
all right, well then we'll hear that one out.
Yeah, no, I figured that's why we'd bring this one to the forefront. Jackson Powers Johnson is a beast. I love him. His playstyle matches this city's persona. We would love him. And then followed up with the talk of the corner, how he's going to trade for a vet corner. He doesn't like young corners. This is an unnamed texter.
If we're being honest, I get a little nervous about you draft a corner and say, here you go. Cover this side of the field, all you. Now, when you have people like a Sauce Gardner and others like that who are just, wow, they get into the league and boom, they belong from day one. Yeah, that kind of makes me a little nervous. I don't know if I'd be okay with that. The funny thing was, like, I was looking through mock drafts. I saw the kid's name from Oregon. And I was like, let me check out this guy because the words that were put on him were a beast. And then I watched the highlights. Now, that's the key word, highlights. They're not showing him messing up on plays. It's highlights. Man, he's Jason Kelsey with even more attitude, it appears like. Like, he gets way out there, and he likes to hit people. One of the highlights I saw of him, it was kind of like, did you ever see the movie The Blind Side, Ray?
I have.
Where he blocks the kid the one time and he just takes him all the way to the wall and puts him up. It was one of those. Like, he took him to the back of the bench and sat him down on the bleacher. So we'll see what happens. All right, last call today. We'll go with Joey in Charleston. Quick draft thoughts. Joey, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, Bob. How you doing?
Good. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, so I've been listening to you guys, talking about offensive line and specifically corner. I'm one of those guys that does, those mock drafts, almost every day. And just looking at the prospects, I think the approach is where is the talent going to drop off the most? So when you're taking that first pick, where's the depth going to be throughout the rest of the draft?
At that position or in general?
In general. And to me, I might sound crazy, but another defensive lineman or offensive lineman, like you're saying, would be the best bet because there are some corners. There are some talented corners you could get in the second.
Yeah, and they have two second-round picks. Thanks, Joey. Appreciate it. They have 2 second-round picks, so you could be apt to go there. Ray was shaking his head until it almost fell off his shoulders when he heard somebody say, "Yeah, let's go to the trenches." You said you might think I'm crazy. I thought you were crazy right at the beginning when you said you do mock drafts every day. But God bless you. Like, that's cool. Good for you. I couldn't imagine doing mock drafts every day. I do look at them to familiarize myself with the players that are projected to be that high. And then I like to look at highlights of those guys and see what's what. But I don't know, Ray. I think you're a little scared that the trenches are going to be hit up again.
Woohoo.
No, doesn't do it for you. But in all honesty, you really
yada yada.
Well, you really have to hit, in my opinion, on a corner that's going to come in here and start for you.
Yeah.
Like, that's tough. So I kind of agree with the trade for a veteran corner later on. All right, we want to thank you for joining us today on the Midday Show. Stay tuned. You got the best show ever coming up with Tyrone, Ricky, and Jen. We'll be back at you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Got Flyers tonight. We'll check that out, talk about that. Whole lot more stuff coming up with you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us here. Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
We heard from the bird.